Good afternoon. Welcome to the August 12th regular meeting of the Village Council of the Village of Pinehurst. Uh, Now that we're called to order, we have a tradition where we will have an invocation, and then we'll go to the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll get reports from council, staff, and so on. So we're going to ask Jason Whitaker of the village staff to please lead us.
Let us pray. Our gracious Heavenly Father, as we gather here today, we pray for your divine direction and wisdom to lead our discussions and our decisions. We pray that our hearts and minds will be aligned as we seek solutions that will best serve the needs of our community. And we pray that you'll guide council and staff now as we serve together for the betterment of Pinehurst. And we thank you for such a wonderful place to live and to work. For in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Thank you. Please rise. Will join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Let us move on to reports. Begin with the village manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We will not meet again until September, so between now and then we will have our barbecue fest. That'll be Labor Day weekend, so it's a big event in the village, and I hope everyone enjoys it and enjoys a few extra calories that weekend. Also, we, at our last meeting, talked about our library and how we received bids for that. We are still working with the low bidder. We're working through some issues, so we do not have a contract on the agenda for tonight. We hope to have one at the next meeting. And we have also started our downtown parking enforcement in Ernst, and so we have Larry, our parking attendant. He's been out there mostly to this point working with people, letting them know what the rules are and helping them understand what the new rules are. But that has been a good experience, although all this rain has a tendency to wash away all our chalk marks, but we're working through some of those issues.
Okay. Thank you, Doug. But a couple of items to comment on. One is I actually met Larry. I was downtown the other day, and he's going around, and I thought I'd introduce myself.
Did you get a ticket?
No, I had my golf cart, so I was okay. First thing, in the past week or two, I had an opportunity to visit Fire Station number 92, my first visit there. That's the one on Blake Boulevard near the post office and the ABC store. Chief arranged it for me, and I got a good tour, met with Deputy Chief Cox, and was impressed with how they function and operate there. And I heard a phrase for the first time that I thought was one of those common sense phrases that it's worth everyone hearing. We were talking about fire sprinklers and safety devices, and he said, fire sprinklers save property, but smoke detectors save lives. And it's a rather simple phrase, but I had never given it much thought before. And maybe when we're hearing from the chief later, we can talk a little about those things. But it was a good visit out there. Secondly, you'll hear more a little later on from myself and Councilman Taylor. We attended the Moore County Commissioners' special meeting that dealt with the regional airport and potential future things that might or might not go on there. And we heard a good deal of discussion on the Moore County land use plan that's in its final stages. So we'll talk more about that later. And on that note, I'll now turn over to Dr. Morgan.
Not a whole lot on reports here. Do have a meeting with the Central Pines Regional Council later on this month. Not a lot has been going on with that through the summer. And just a reminder that we have a lot of things going on here in North Carolina in the August events and a lot of fun things, but also it's back to school, so you watch for the school buses and maybe a little more traffic. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Taylor.
A couple of things. First, the mayor was out of town for the U.S. Kids Parade, so I got to be in his stead there, feel the rush of power, began to understand where coup d'etats originate. But it, actually, all kidding around aside, it was, I thought it was a tremendous event. I had the privilege of being interviewed by the Golf Channel along with 6 or 7 other people, both head professionals at local golf clubs and representatives of the broad spectrum of entities that it takes to put this on. It certainly is not just the village council or not even just the resort in Pinehurst. I mean, they play as far away as at Quail Ridge up in Tramway. So it is a huge event, and it was fun to be a part of it. It was good that we've had a couple of presentations from U.S. Kids in advance of that. Secondly, Doug and I, a week ago yesterday, at the invitation of the DOT, went up to Wilson, North Carolina, to learn about their microtransit program. Wilson's an interesting town. It's a town of 48, almost 50,000 people. There are a number of factories up there. Its northwest corner touches I-95, and there's some hotels up there. But it is a relatively economically blue-collar or lower blue-collar area. And one of the biggest issues they have there, and what has led to them adopting this microtransit program, is people need a way to get to work. There are a lot of people who simply do not have cars, or there are 2 people to work and they only have 1 car. And that's almost 60% of the people that they transport are people going from home to work. They talked a lot about how they came to this decision. They talked about what the demographic profile is, where they think it made sense. And I think in coming back from that, Doug and I felt that it's probably not something that would be appropriate or useful for Pinehurst in isolation, but it could very well be something that the SMPO takes up on a more local or I'll call it regional, but regional basis. Very interesting to hear from, and they had representatives from the DOT in terms of how they planned it. They had representatives from Wilson's government itself. They had a fixed route bus system. Why didn't that work? Why is this an improvement over it? And so forth. So very educational. It's a little farther than I thought it was going to be. Took a little longer, but well worth it, and gave Doug and I a chance to chat on some other items that will be on the agenda later.
Yeah, John had to spend 6 hours with me, so he had enough.
And the only other thing that I would add to what Pat had to say about the county commissioner's work session here with respect to the land use plan, you know, the land use study committee produced a report. There are a number of specific recommendations in there, and they, not unlike us, are now at the point of, yes, they could adopt this land use plan, but the land use plan by itself is not enough. They have to incorporate certain elements into their UDO. So they're right in the same situation we are as we review our PDO. And one of the statements that was made there is they're already aware that their existing UDO has some inconsistencies with the previous land use plan. And unfortunately, as a result of some actions in Raleigh and other things, were they to begin to incorporate all the recommendations of the land use study plan into their UDO, those inconsistencies would become even larger. So they're at a little bit of a standstill from that process. Anyway, that's it for me.
Thank you. Councilwoman Ficklin.
Thank you. We had our focus group meetings number 4 and 5 held on July 30th and August 6th, respectively. We're about halfway through the PDO chapters that we will be revising. Our next meeting is September 3rd, and the community meeting has been changed to now September 17th. And you'll be getting more information around that as we get closer. The Beautification Committee also met. It's been their first meeting since their summer hiatus. We selected a new committee chair, which you'll find out more about later on today. We discussed projects for the coming year, and we also discussed the unveiling of the Manning Historical Plaque, which is going to be in the Village Center right around the curve, close to the Donald Ross statue. So we're going to have some sort of unveiling ceremony date to be determined. And lastly, for the last 2 days, I've had the great fortune of attending a conference sponsored by the Institute for Community Economic Development, which is an organization that comes to Pinehurst, to the resort, every year for this conference. It's a very large conference. I had the honor of providing opening and welcoming remarks, and it was a great conference. It's still going on. Lots of wonderful speakers. Their topic this year was the green equation: capital plus innovation equals opportunity. It was fascinating. Thank you. That's it for me.
Hey, one question: are focus groups? I had someone ask me this. One person asked me this. Are focus groups open to the public?
So they are available. The public could attend if they want. We would not take public comment, though.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Jack Farrell.
Nothing beyond, I did attend one by telephone, the meeting of the focus groups, and Councilmember Ficklin reported adequately on that. So we're looking forward to the community input on September 17th. So that'll be interesting. That's it.
Okay. We now have the opportunity to hear from the chief of the fire department and then the chief of the police department to walk us through their annual report so that we can find out what's been going on here. So we'll hear from the fire department. Maybe you both want to come up and you can walk us through this, and then we'll probably have a few questions, and that'll be it. You got enough room there, Chief? Okay. Move things if you have to.
Eric, you're listed first, so we'll let you go ahead.
All right. Well, appreciate being here tonight. So in your packet, you should have a one-page report, much like what you've seen in the past. And so starting at the left, top quadrant, and we'll just work our way across. So calls for service. Last year we finished at 2,409. This year we're at 2,404. We're down 5 calls. I really thought that we were going to probably finish up around 2,500, but April and May we kind of caught a little bit of a respite. Overlapping incidents, we're at 20.09% on overlapping incidents. Our busiest day of the week is Monday. Busiest hour today is around 1 o'clock. And then times that our staff are recalled, so off-duty recalls, that's when we got a large structure fire, we're committed, we have to bring off-duty back in, was 21 times last year. The middle portion there shows you the different types of calls that we have, so by percentage. So if you just look down through there, so 3% of our calls were actual working fires. Rescue and EMS is 40%. And then the other notable types of calls, 17% for service calls, 16% for good intent calls, and then false alarms and false calls were 17%. And then calls for service by hour of the day is the final one, final quadrant on the top. And so basically you just see the typical bell curve. So basically starting at around 7 o'clock in the morning and then kind of start to taper off around 10 o'clock in the evenings. You kind of see kind of the crescendo in terms of our incidents and what you're looking at there by time of day. So typically, you know, at night, after about 10 o'clock at night, things start to slow down a little bit for us. And then they start increasing again back in the morning. Our 20-year comparison for our calls, you see that in the bottom left, 20-year comparison. So you can see that last year and this year were pretty much level in terms of calls for service. And then our locations for calls of service, 70% of our calls were in the village. Then you look at the district. That's what we also have. We also service some county district, and then that was 15%. And then the remainder is where we provide automatic aid out to other districts, whether we run with Aberdeen or Southern Pines, and our county partners, West End or Eastwood or Pine Bluff or other departments. Our inspections, our state mandated inspections. We were at 182 inspections for the year. And then 718 total inspections. So when you look, or compliance, so that's plan reviews, compliance checks, consultations where somebody calls us, they want to meet with us about a code question, or hey, they're going to start a project and they're trying to understand the different requirements. And then of course re-inspections. You know, so if we go into a business, or we go into a structure and we have to come back, you know, there was a hazard we found and we give them time to rectify that, we have to come back. So days since our last lost time, so you remember this was done in July, so actually we're up to 334, so we're heading back towards 365 days of no lost time injuries, so we're very grateful for that. And then our year-to-date training hours, so our in-house training, so 6,772 hours of in-house training, and then advanced level training is 1,924 hours of training. And then our public awareness contacts, 25,265 is where we're at in terms of our public contacts. So that includes social media, groups coming into the station, station tours, us going out to facilities and meeting the public and doing different programs for them. So entertain any questions you may have.
I can kick it off, and my colleagues can jump in. One is the overlapping incidents. Is that a steady number over the previous few years, or does it go up, down much, or is it?
Yeah, so
20%?
we've been at or above 20%, basically since I've been here, and so and that's going to continue to rise, and it's the concern in that is if that truck is, if the primary unit is out, so Mayor, you were talking about you went to Station 92, so if Station 92 is out on a call, then that means they're out of position. The next company that has to come in to cover them is out of position, so that creates a longer response time.
Do you have an idea of how many of our homes have smoke detectors in them? I mean,
That's a tough one, because the codes have increased that over the years. You know, so depending on when the house was built, now it's in the residential code where the alarms there has to be a certain standard alarm hardwired in, and that's there, but the older homes. But we have a very aggressive campaign where if somebody calls and they need, whether it's just a battery or they need an alarm, we're very aggressive about going out there and getting in the community, making sure that they do have a working smoke alarm. And we actually, if they don't have one, we actually really try to encourage the 10-year lithiums, because the good thing about the 10-year battery is you put it up, it's good for 10 years. And so that's one thing that we are very aggressive with, to try to make sure that they are in the homes.
I recall Deputy Chief Cox mentioning that they often give out batteries.
Yes, we do.
To people when they're replacing them. So it's
if somebody calls and, you know, maybe they're not comfortable getting up on a ladder or changing it, we'll do it for them. That's some pretty cheap insurance to make sure that we can get somebody out of a building alive.
one other thing. What are the two things that you think the public could do to make things better for you in the village of Pinehurst? You guys work hard, great response rates, and people admire the work you do. What is it the public could do to make it a little better for you all?
So I think, you know, we just done a social media post the other day about making sure that your address is clearly posted on the outside of your home. That's one thing when we were doing some of the damage assessment stuff after the Tropical Storm Chantel come through. You know, a lot of the areas we were going into had addresses, and we had difficulty finding those addresses, either because the numbers were no longer legible, maybe they were older, faded. So being able to find somebody, even though we've got the technology we have to help us get it in there, you know, we still got to find the address, the house, right? So that's one thing. And then, you know, the other thing is it's very simple. It's just very simple things like just maintaining the property, you know, making sure that, you know, the debris, the cleanliness, all those different things. Because what happens is we're all, you know, we all are creatures of habit, and things collect in our homes, you know, just going through and making sure your garages are clean, making sure that you're not storing stuff, you know, excess amounts of paint, combustible, flammable liquids, things of that nature in your home, and just general tidiness, and just making sure that you keep those materials in limited quantities and keep them cleaned out.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
My colleagues, Dr. Morgan? Question?
Couple things. First of all, thank you for presenting this. Uh, Lots of times you look at the numbers and then you just kind of get impressed. You don't think about the human element behind that. And looking at your numbers, though, it looks like you've had basically 961 rescue EMS incidents from this past year. You've had 72 fires when I multiply out the percentages on there. First question for you on this. Do you have the equipment you need to effectively keep our population safe in those EMS and those fire calls?
Yes, so on the EMS side, we are good. We've actually got in the budget this year to replace some of our AEDs to a different brand or different style. So we are updating our AEDs, or automatic external defibrillators. And, just as we continue to grow, when you look at our built environment, when I say the built environment, what we're looking at in terms of our buildings, typically things are going up. And because of that, that's going to continue to put a need on, can we access, or can we get to the tops of those buildings? Can we get to the top floors of those buildings? And right now, we're dependent on our automatic aid to do that for us. There's additional hotels coming into the area for areas that we serve around Taylortown. And then, the built environment around the hospital, those are all proven those are challenges for us to be able to reach the top of those buildings and be able to get elevator streams and be able to get people in there where we need to get them. Right now, we're able to meet that need with the help of Aberdeen, but that is a concern as we go forward, and we're going to have to continue to look at that as we move forward.
Specific reference on the ladder truck?
Yes, sir.
That kind of stuff is what we're talking about? Okay. Very good. Next question for you on there in reference again to looking at the EMS and looking at the fires, because that's when what you have is what you have. Do you have all the maintenance necessary, the equipment necessary to keep our fire fighters and EMS personnel safe as they do their job?
Yes, sir. Our maintenance, we are very fortunate to have the maintenance agreements that we have. Davey and his group up at Fleet do a really good job. And if they don't, the one good thing about the vendor and the vendor relationship we have with the manufacturers of our apparatus, they actually have a regional facility right in Fayetteville. So 35, 40 minutes down the road. So if there's something heavy diesel wise that they or a transmission, something like that, that's above or beyond the capacity of the shop, we've got a really good relationship with them. We can get it down to Fayetteville, and they're very good about turning the trucks around for us and getting it back. So our maintenance programs, and we've also got several members of the department that are actually what we call emergency vehicle technician trained, Captain Anlicker and others, Captain Owens. I mean, we got several folks that are very good at small equipment, small maintenance. They're trained to do it. So we've got a lot of talent in-house to help us with that. And then anything we can't handle, we can get it out and get it maintained.
Okay. The last point on here is when we look at the bottom left-hand corner of the 20-year comparison, doesn't take a math major to figure out that we have a progressive increase in what's going on, which makes sense because of the increase in population that we have. I encourage you to do what you have done in the past. That's making sure you're keeping us honest on the council as you have these different needs, because you can't do this retroactively. You have to do this proactively whenever you're talking to fire and EMS. So as you go into the strategic planning meeting later on this year with a new council, I would encourage you to do what you've done in the past, keep us honest to make sure you continue to have what you need. I appreciate all you do. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Taylor.
Yeah, a couple of things. The state mandated inspections completed. What is the base? How many should we be doing? Do we do it every other year, so they're 360, or just how to put 182 in perspective?
In context, yeah. So the state has a state mandated inspection schedule. It's either buildings are an inspection every once a year, once every other year, or once every 3 years, based off the occupancy. In other words, what are they doing there? So, for example, a 24-hour care facility such as a rest home, skilled care facility, the hospital, large assembly areas like what we have at the hotel, the ballrooms, those are annual inspections. And then we have once every 2 years. We've got less than 5 once every other year inspections. Those are like storage areas, things of that nature, where we would have to do that once every 2 years. And then every 3 years are just your ordinary like businesses, okay? So just your mom and pop business. So we got just over 400 inspectable occupancies, and basically, if we're, the sweet spot for us is 225. So if you look at that number and where we're at on that, we had, there was about 3 months where we were without our full-time fire inspector. Firefighter McNeil was our fire inspector. He decided to go back to shift, so we had to get somebody onboarded. And then our part-time fire inspector, Terry Morris, he was taking care of some family health concerns there that he had to deal with in April, May, and June. And he actually left us in June after several years of dedicated service to the village. And we've actually got someone internal now. One of our firefighters, Firefighter Freeze, is going to take on those inspections for us on his days off. He's, of course, be compensated for that. So those numbers, that's where you're going to see that fluctuation in numbers. But it's based off of that state mandated inspection schedule.
But so if I hear that right, 225, if we're fully staffed, 225 would be roughly that number.
Yes,
It'll
sir.
fluctuate some every year.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep.
So, sorry to interrupt, but we are having a little bit of a technical difficulty, so we are not currently streaming. We can either pause the meeting and bring it back up when we get it fixed, or we can just run the meeting and we won't have this portion available for recording.
So it couldn't be viewed later then either. It's
Probably.
entirety.
The recording's not working either, right? Josh and Paul? Yeah, so recording's not working either.
How long would the pause be, you think?
I mean, that's, all depends.
Okay.
Is this a reboot it and see if it or we're
Yeah, they're working on it, so.
Just turn it off, turn it back on. Is that the
exactly
IT fix for John Taylor?
secondary job?
Josh, do you, any time estimate, or? Yeah.
I encourage the council to continue on. We have
I
people.
don't have a problem with that.
We had a pretty full agenda, I think.
Okay.
Second issue, and this is maybe on one hand a little bigger, but maybe not. I believe we require that all of our firefighters are also EMS qualified.
That's correct.
And when we've looked at a third station, a substantial portion of that station, the cost is the additional personnel that would be required to staff it 24/7.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And the third thing that actually I've learned about both from you and from Doug is the way that shifts are staffed. To the extent that we have round numbers, 3 EMS calls a day versus 1 fire call a week, should we as a council think longer term, conjunction with you, about having a separate EMS facility where the EMS people are not necessarily fire approved? Would that staff differently? Would they be easier to hire? And is that more responsive to where we actually see the quote unquote demand?
Yeah, so that's an excellent question. So what you got to look at is what the standard of care level of care is. And so when you consider how EMS is structured, number one is the counties control the EMS franchise by state law. So basically what that means is the EMS system is under a medical director, and the medical director controls how we respond and how that looks and what that looks like. So the part of the EMS plan that we serve in the fire department is what we call just what we call basic life support, BLS. And so if you look at the next tier up, and that's when you see like the blue and white ambulances that you see from Moore County, that's ALS, advanced life support. So what they have is they can do a lot more skilled care. They're paramedics, whereas we're EMT basics. So when you look at that, Councilman Taylor, you're looking at what is that level of care, standard of care that you're looking at. If you look at 2 people on a truck, okay, and on the EMS side, that's what they're going to be able to do is EMS, okay. One additional person, okay, and it costs money, but one additional person gets you somebody that is multifaceted, because fire and EMS is there, but there's a lot of other calls that we also do. And the other piece of the puzzle is is the risk analysis on basically what does it take to respond to the different types of hazards. And, you know, one thing that we have to do is, yes, fire is not a large component of what we do each day, every day. But in that 3 to 5% of the time, that's 100% of our dollar loss and 100% of our injuries due to fire. Okay, so the risk to benefit, okay, and then while it's low frequency, it's high risk. Okay, and so that low frequency, high risk is what drives those numbers and the staffing and the people that we need. What you would get is if you had a wholly separate, just EMS, whatever, you know, basically what you do is you would take those calls out of the fire department, basically, as the fire department wouldn't necessarily run them first, and that it would take the load off of them. So in the QRV discussion that we had as part of the Birdie that we presented along with Doug, you're going to get a little bit of a glimpse of that. There's going to be two people per shift. I've been hearing probably beyond that.
Does the county ever have any discussions about changing in fire district location, or boundaries?
So the biggest thing that drives that discussion is what is the closest station that can serve that area,
Okay.
right?
Road miles type of thing?
Yeah, so they look at, you know, the proximity of the station to the proximity of where they're trying to serve. The county can actually do what they call 6-mile district. Villages and towns can't do 6-mile districts. We can only do 5-mile districts. The counties can allow you to do 6 miles. That's an insurance regulatory issue is what that is, set by the North Carolina Rate Board. But the county sets those districts, and the only way that the county would change that is an additional station location that would be able to serve an area with a better response time. Then the county would have to make that decision if they wanted to change that boundary.
Additional building at the extremities of our fire district may or may not be a consideration.
It could be a consideration, yes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So here's a question. I see the growth in absolute numbers on the calls for service, but has the mix changed over time? If I did a chart which showed each individual different type of call for service, would I see the mix changing, or has it been pretty steady?
It is right now, as you look at it right now, it's from since we added EMS till now, that call breakdown has stayed fairly consistent. The things that you will continue to see change in that is as the call volume goes up, where you're probably going to see the changes in that call volume as it goes up, you're going to see areas, the demand's going to be on EMS, you're going to see that demand go up, and you're going to see the service calls continue to go up. And fires are going to continue to inch up as well. One thing you got to look at is you look at our building inventory. Those structures that were built in the 60s, 70s, and 80s are getting age on them, right? And just like with anything else, the older it gets, that's when you're going to start having problems. And so as that building stock ages, that's also going to cause an increase in your calls for service on fire.
But you think in general the mix is going to stay similar for the foreseeable future?
Yes, sir. It'll stay fairly close. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Jack, real quick to just jump in on that. I think it was 2016 is when we started doing EMS calls, so that's when you see the drastic increase in the calls. It pretty accelerates quickly after that.
That's when we see the bump in the number there, right?
Yes, sir.
John?
Barb, thank you for your question. I think it would be possible for us to think that the rate of increase of calls might flatten out as Pinehurst approaches fully built out. But I think that'd probably be wrong for the answer that you gave to her, because the area that we serve, that population will continue to grow at a rate probably larger than our native population will be. And I don't know, Doug, whether I know there's some reallocation of costs for servicing other areas. I don't know if that takes that into account, but I think we need to keep that in mind as we think about how to fully staff the Pinehurst Fire Department.
I think it would be worthwhile for the September meeting of the NAC to have you guys on the agenda. Okay. So we'll make a point of that, because this will be timely information, and it can be used both to inform and to educate the NAC members. Thanks. Let us move forward to the police department. Chief Webb?
Thank you. Pulling up a PowerPoint for you. So this will be our mid-year review, so this will capture January 1 through June 30 of this year, so just in that time frame. And this will be this 6 months compared to last year and then the 5-year previous average.
Glenn, I don't think PowerPoint wants to help you today. So. Let me try that again.
Fire Chief Derek, your data was from the full fiscal year, though.
Fiscal year, sir, that's correct, Mayor.
Okay.
The change for us was doing it the fiscal year for us confuses things because we report crime by
I have no problem.
calendar year.
Right.
And so we're crossing a lot of data that makes things look funny. So this will give us a more accurate
That's fine.
description
We'll
of
do
where we're at. I've got some notes I can start working through.
Yeah, I think that's actually might be related to the other issue we're having.
In
so.
summation, we're doing very well. We only had one, in this 6-month period, we only had one crime that would qualify as a violent crime, and that was an arson. Beyond that, most things are down. Our breaking and enterings are down. I don't want to really go too much into percentages because our incidents are so low that one can be 20%. You know, so, but if you have the information that I gave you, oh, there we go. So one violent crime, fraud reports are starting to level off, but they're still very high compared to historical data. Our theft from motor vehicles, our vehicle break-ins are down 53%. Breaking and enterings of homes or businesses down 77%. And our officers have answered a little over 13,000 calls just in 6 months. They've issued 1,296 citations, made 95 arrests with a total of 147 charges connected to those arrests. Through our survey that we do, we've had a 53% response rate with a 95% positivity rate in customer satisfaction and as we've interacted with the public. So we push a culture of continuous improvement. Our officers have 14 mandated classes. They're working through those right now. We had two of our detectives went through instructor school, so they'll help teach classes for us that we have to do each year. And Sergeant Lopez completed the law enforcement executive program at NC State. Detective York completed 2 bachelor's degrees, one in criminal justice and one in sociology at UNC Pembroke. And we currently have over half the department with advanced degrees and 7 more employees, 2 seeking associates, 4 seeking a bachelor's, and 1 seeking a master's degree right now. Beyond that, for professional certifications, SPO Judge and MPO Smith both received their intermediate certificates from the state, and Officer Gibson received his intermediate and advanced certificate from the state. Detectives York and Sergeant Damber were part of some training provided by the police execs in Wilmington. They got some training on emergency management, specifically related to weather events like Helene was a big part of that training and what to do when everything goes wrong, which they had a very good case study from Western North Carolina on that. First responder wellness, forensic services, juvenile justice, and crisis communications. We were rated the 4th safest city. The difference in 4 and 1 is very negligible. What got us was because all the data lags. We did have a homicide almost 2 years ago now, so it lagged over, which not in what you think in the traditional sense. These were 2 very elderly people who were just tired of being tired. Let's see, fraud still our biggest, and you saw this slide at the beginning of the year. It's our biggest criminal concern, and most of it, unfortunately, is outside of our control. So we encourage people to freeze their credit because it doesn't affect your credit score, and it helps prevent, it's not 100%, but it helps prevent new lines of credit being taken out in your name. Use your credit instead of debit because it's better that the credit card company loses its money than you lose your money from the bank. Don't put your Social Security number on checks. Shred credit solicitations. Check credit reports. And most importantly, if something seems off, please call us because there is a gathering storm of this stuff going on, especially with the proliferation of AI. We've had just here over $640,000 lost in fraud cases. And most of that is coming from online exploitation of our elders. There's a lot of Bitcoin frauds going on. People are receiving calls telling them they missed jury duty, they're going to be arrested, and so they're going to Bitcoin ATMs and giving thousands of dollars to these criminals. Most of the criminals, the vast majority, are not located here. There's AI threats in voice cloning, so digital kidnappings are a possibility, which is, this Bitcoin is very similar to that, where someone feels like they're under arrest or are going to be under arrest, so they're being extorted that way. What we've run into most recently is people using artificial intelligence through data breaches. So they get your information, they create, using AI, a very realistic driver's license with their picture on it, but your information, and then they go into banks and clean out accounts. Most of our suspects are in other states. We are doing a pretty decent job of tracking those down. One way we're also trying to mitigate that is Detective York is going to be attached to an FBI task force, so she will be working here and in Fayetteville with the FBI RA there. And because most of these cases have a nexus outside of Pinehurst, this will give us more federal resources to bring to bear on our cases. Instead of waiting for the FBI to pick up the case, we will have someone embedded with them part-time, going back and forth between us and them to work on these cases. So on the horizon, what we're trying to do with our biggest external threat being fraud is we're making sure that our detectives get training, making sure that they understand the coming threats, and that they're also putting together an educational program so that we can go to HOAs, community meetings, and help our population be aware of what's going on. The most important thing they can do is, if something sounds off, to please come see us. It's not, unfortunately, a lot of people think they're putting us out if they use us as a service, but they're paying for the service. They should certainly engage with us on that so that we can help keep them safe as possible. Internally, our biggest issue and what we're looking at is officer mental health. We want to push something a little more robust than we're already doing. And just to give you some information on that, I mean, as you know, we did have an officer-involved shooting this year, which takes a toll on all involved and has legs outside of just the people involved. But so this, from NIH and the University of Arkansas, there are some studies that show the average person in an 80-year lifespan has about 3 serious traumatic events in their life, but that the average police officer has 6 to 7 per year. So they're getting 2 lifetimes of trauma per year. When you extrapolate that out over a 30-year career, that's 180 to 210 traumatic events per officer. And so we want to make sure that we're being proactive with that, because there's been the downstream effect of that is between 2016 and 2022, over 1,200 officers have committed suicide. That's according to Blue Help. And the statistic shows us that we are 4 times more likely to die at our own hand than we are at the hands of a felon. And so we want to make sure that we're being proactive and making sure that our officers are both safe physically, but also mentally. And any questions I'll take.
Sure. Thanks for that, particularly that ending information there. Puts things in perspective as to what the police officers face. The Citizen Positive Satisfaction Score. Remind me where that comes from.
Sure. So excluding certain calls, like very sensitive calls, we wouldn't send this survey, but, you know, any other regular call, you will get a text message from me, and it asks to rate your experience with a telecommunicator 1 through 5, and then you can leave comments, and you can rate your experience with the officer 1 through 5, and then leave comments. And then at the end, it gives the person an option to call me with further comment. It's structured so that you don't click on anything. It's just a simple response. We didn't want links in there because we tell people not to click on things, especially from numbers they don't recognize.
Right.
So, and I meant to print out some of the comments, and that's on me. I'll send them to you, but I forgot to bring them. But there's a readout of the positive comments that we can look at, and the negative comments if we get any. But the officers get an email weekly with all of their positive comments and their personal positivity score with the public. It encourages transparency, but it also encourages good customer service.
So to be clear, this is these are coming from people that we've interacted in, the force has interacted in.
Yes, yes. You've had to have, so the way it works is this software interacts with our CAD system. So it sends the survey out to the phone number listed in the CAD. And so that we know that we're capturing people that we actually spoke to. It's not just a blanket survey that goes out.
Okay, that's very good to know. Let me ask you what I've asked our fire chief, and that is, what are the 2 things that the residents could do to make your job easier? I mean, we know what the council can, of course, their support for your efforts is vital. But what is it that the average citizen might be able to do that they're missing right now?
One of them is the same thing that the chief mentioned, was make sure your house is well marked, because we have to find you too. And so, as Councilman Ficklen mentioned, if your mailbox is on that side, we may pull in that way. And so we want to be able to find everyone. And the second thing is like I mentioned during the fraud, since that's one of our biggest issues, is just to contact us. I don't want people to feel like they're putting us out, and because we enjoy a very good relationship with the community, but we do want them to use our services, and what you might think is frivolous may be the key to something bigger. And so we want to show up and triage that for you and help get you plugged into services if needed. And if not, then fine. At least we checked, but we want to make sure that we're getting the maximum use of our officers.
Finally, I noticed we were the 4th safest city in North Carolina. Our neighbor Whispering Pines was the 3rd. Is there, if some of us council members were to go over tonight to Whispering Pines and create some mischief, would it change the data at all?
We could shift it. I mean, I've got some masks in my trunk. I can provide those.
Okay, all right.
Might
Just
change
want-
the
we're
council.
Full service council. I just want to.
Only take
I
1 or
appreciate
2.
the assistance.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Dr. Morgan, do you have any questions?
Yeah, appreciate it. And again, thank you so much for what you and your fellow officers do, Chief. Same question I asked the fire chief. Do you have the resources necessary to keep our public safe on your calls?
We do. So we are into the wants area. Management and council has been very generous with our request. Our needs are covered, and most of our wants are covered. If we don't get it in 1 year, it's usually we can budget it the next year because money is a finite resource. So there's been a lot of generosity and trust from management and council that we are deploying that technology, the equipment, and the things that we request in a responsible way. So we're very fortunate, and we have top-of-the-line technology. We have top-of-the-line equipment. Like I said, we are well into wants versus just needs. And I talked to a lot of chiefs that are barely scraping by, and that is not the case here. So
I think you just answered my second question, which is having the appropriate training, maintenance, equipment, resources to keep our officers safe as they do their job.
Yeah, so you provide a training budget for us that's about 4 times what other local agencies get, which is what allows us to send officers to the Law Enforcement Executive Program, to the FBI Law Enforcement Executive Development Association, to AOMP at NC State. And so we're building a cadre of well-trained, not just officers, but leaders. And it truly is the staff that is the envy of the region, if not just locally, because we have that luxury of being able to train these people at such a high level. And that's not the only training they provide. We're also able to bring in outside instructors. We recently did a rifle class with a pretty elite group of firearms instructors. We did a close quarters pistol class for the officers so that they get more than just the basic training. So many officers only get to shoot once a year and just plug holes in paper versus teaching real world scenarios and how to move and operate their weapons platforms. And it's unheard of, especially in a small agency. So we appreciate that. And then when you look at the vehicle fleet and what we've done with that recently and how it should roll every 3 to 5 years now, we were P25 compliant a year before most agencies were. Our computers are top of the line, our body cams, the VR helmets, the LPRs, the built-in LPRs, the live streaming of the body cameras. Everything I mentioned, most agencies only dream about happens. So we're well ahead of most places.
Well, super. I'm glad we're able to provide that. Thank you for the report on that. Next, I want to dive into a little bit about cooperation with other entities. Specifically, we're looking at law enforcement entities. You mentioned Detective York is working with the FBI, so commend you for having that. Is this something that we can expound on more or improve on more, or do you think we're doing pretty well as it is right now? We're talking about integration, let's say, with FBI, with SBI, with other localities, their police departments, the sheriff department, the county. Is this an area that we need to do more, or do you think we got that covered?
Anything can always be better, but we operate pretty well together. The chief of Aberdeen, Whispering Pines, Southern Pines, the sheriff and I all have a good relationship. As a matter of fact, tomorrow at 10, we have a meeting. We have periodic chiefs meetings with the sheriff over in Southern Pines, and all the chiefs in the county get together and we talk about what's going on. Southern Pines also hosts a CompStat meeting every month where all of our investigators get together, because even though we don't share citizens, we do share suspects. And so they share information in those meetings about what's going on. A prime example, our detectives are working a case that has some crossover, and they're working with the hospital police as well as Southern Pines on that. We don't have there's not very territorial issues when it comes to that. I just met this morning for a few hours with the new SAC for the SBI for our region, and she and I had a very productive meeting on SBI resources and how we can cooperate and they can cooperate with us. The new director of the SBI has been very interested in making sure we see our agents other than just when we need them. And so they're fulfilling that order from him so far.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear that. And just more of a comment on this. I know you already do some outreach with non-government organizations in reference to different ones. An example of that would be like Friend to Friend. They're the county organization that does provide assistance for victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking. And I know you have integrated with that. You've integrated with the SBI on that. But I would encourage us to maintain outreaches with non-governmental organizations that also can assist with us in whatever areas you think that's appropriate. Also, we're talking about outreach, something that I would like to see more of, and this is something that doesn't have to fall in the police department, but can also fall through the village itself. And that's we're talking about outreach, like for fraud, doing different seminars, that kind of stuff. Actually, getting people in and see if we can do a more proactive effort in being able to educate our population on. Last point I'm going to bring up is something that you brought up, which hits very close to home for me, and that's the mental health issues. Having served in combat as an infantry officer, also as a doctor, having been in with the medical healthcare system in the military for over 2 decades, having been in the VA health system for almost a decade, that hits home dramatically on this. And one of the problems I've noticed in my experience was that you identify something, but then what do you actually do? What can tangibly be done to assist with that? And so that's more of a question that I throw out there, a rhetorical one at this point in time, but it's something that I think we need to continue to look at, saying what different things that we need to do to protect our police officers as they're dealing with different events in their life. And so thank you for bringing that up to our attention, and let's make sure that we're continuing to look for different tangible items to take care of them. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Taylor.
Jeff, thank you for leading into that, because it was one of the questions I had in the area of making improvements there. Is this something where we are offering additional services covered by insurance? If you could just expound a little bit on what we're trying to do to provide additional support in the mental health area.
I'm working on a proposal for you to be more in depth, so I'll just touch on that briefly. But tell you what we already do. We do have an EAP program. We do have benefits through our insurance to allow for that. All of that is things you have to do voluntarily, obviously. But when we do have a critical incident, we have resources throughout the state through NC LEAP, which is different than what I showed earlier. It's a law enforcement assistance program, so LEAP, not LEEP. We've used them before in critical incidents for group debriefs. We used Holly Springs Police Department has a pretty robust peer-to-peer or peer officer program, and we used them for the critical incident we had this year to do a debrief with officers. We use FMRT Group to do follow-ups with officers that have been in critical incidents. So there are resources, and we are using them. So the pivot wouldn't be to change what we're currently doing. It would just maybe to be add a few proactive things, like maybe a mandatory check-in or two per year with someone to gauge where officers are at, and to do that kind of out of town a little bit, so that, you know, their friend doesn't see them coming out of there, because there is a stigma, especially in public safety, I'm sure across the street as well, that you don't want to appear weak, and so we're trying to overcome that culture that's been in law enforcement and public safety since its inception, to let people know that it's okay to need help at times, because what you do is abnormal.
Good to hear, and thank you for that. I know in the past, one of the major time sinks has been transportation for involuntary commitments. Where is the hospital in staffing up its security force?
They're getting there. I was talking to their chief today. They're getting close. Of course, you know, we're not the only campus either, and so, you know, they have staffing that has to spread out over all of their properties. But they're getting very close. They're bringing in a lot of retired and veteran officers, so they're getting real quality and experience that they're bringing in to help offset some of that deficit. But they're not fully staffed yet, so they're not fully 24/7, but they are doing a lot. It's taken a lot off of us. I think if the commitment originates out of the hospital property, that's still ours. But now if it's happening on the hospital property, they're handling it for us and doing all the transport. So that's taking a burden off of us. They're taking crashes and things in the parking lot, so that's taking a burden off of us. So it's been so far, even though they're not fully staffed yet, it's still been a beneficial partnership.
I know it, in talking to friends of mine who work there, it's also greatly appreciated that they have that right there for things that, as you say, originate inside, not outside. You mentioned a statistic of the dollars that have been lost through fraud. And just at a macro level, to see fraud up only 1.7% over the 5-year average, I think is encouraging. If I had to assess how many phishing attempts I see, it's growing exponentially.
Yeah, this is not a problem just for us. I mean, it's a worldwide issue.
Have we ever actually recouped any money? I mean, a lot of this stuff goes either overseas or places where we can't directly touch it, but
Rarely. Even if you get a local person, by the time you catch them, they spin it.
okay. I think that's it. Thanks very much. Appreciate the report.
Barbara Fickle?
Thank you. I just have one question. Some time ago, maybe within the last 18 months or so, I believe you all had a Citizens Police Academy option offering for some of our citizens. I wondered if you all were going to continue doing that.
We are planning to bring that back. We are now, I hesitate to even say this because I'm going to jinx myself, but we are staffed up. And so maybe it's good it's not recording right now, so it won't go out there and ruin it for me. But so as we've staffed up, that's also contributed to the increase that you've seen in the citations, because we have more people out there on their own actually working instead of just being in training. So we do plan to bring that back now that we've stabilized in probably late fall.
Is that similar to the Citizens on Patrol, and what is the status of that?
So we've tried to recruit out of that for Citizens on Patrol, and
Yeah.
it didn't work that time, but it doesn't mean it won't work next time. And so we've also, it's limited on what's offered now too. Things, people are filling out the extra duty stuff. They want a uniformed police officer more often now. So we've had less requests. But it's still going. We still have help with the school crossings and fingerprinting.
Yeah, that's obviously very helpful. It's an offload there, yeah. No, good job on the training and pretty impressive results on the training and educational results. Very fantastic. I have one question, which I read an article the other day about a possibility is a noise meter citation type of device that in fact you could use as similar to a traffic speed camera, which sits next to the road, which measures noise going by and will in fact record the vehicle creating the noise. The reason I asked that is I was in the hospital a while ago, and I will tell you that the acceleration off a page road sometimes wakes everyone up in the hospital. I'm just curious whether or not we could clamp down on a little bit of that noise in the hospital area in particular.
Yeah,
And you ever heard that device?
I haven't. I jotted it down in my notes to see it. So for something that the legislature would have to approve use of that. I
Obviously.
don't know that it's available in North Carolina, but I do know that we worked with the hospital police recently, and we put a speed sign out there that has a solar panel on it, so it should not run out of battery. Specifically on Page, and I know that they're, I think it's Representative Reeder out of Pitt County has a bill to create a class of hospital police that would then give them jurisdiction on the roads adjacent.
Nearby roads.
It would make them like campus police. And so currently they're company police, so they can't activate their blue lights off the property. So the minute they cross onto the street, they're no longer police officers.
Right.
If they had an emergency at First Health over by Harris Teeter, they could not run blue lights all the way to First Health. They have to cut them off at the edge of their property. So that would relieve that and give them some jurisdiction on their adjacent roads, and then they could also help with traffic enforcement over there.
The reason I say that, some of these vehicles will wake the dead,
Mhm.
you know, and we don't want that to happen, obviously. So just something to think about long-term, maybe. Who knows? No, good job. I think the community recognizes that we're one of the safest communities in the area, and I've had people say to me that the thing they notice is that there's police presence, but it's not overwhelming. I don't know how to express that exactly, but it's the right level of police presence in almost every case. And particularly since we have very large groups that come to the village. I mean, talk about the Open or U.S. Kids or the ongoing conventions. There's large groups that arrive in the village, and yet we seem to handle it pretty well. I think that's just a testament to how well the police do in this area. Appreciate it. Thank you.
They do a great job of balancing enforcement with community presence. A lot of them spend time that's unseen, getting out and talking to people who are just walking through neighborhoods, petting people's dogs, talking, just having a conversation with them, and then at the same time making sure people slow down on Midland Road in the mornings. And
Right. Makes a big deal. It makes a big difference. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Jack, I saw that same email or internet about noise decibels. It was focused on muffler noise in the one I
Well,
saw.
a car noise, yeah, right.
Yeah, but they had a picture of a muffler. But at any rate, it is something worthwhile to just check into. Yeah, go ahead.
Jack's comment actually just jogged one other thing. I know because I actually sent you an email. When we put these speed limit signs out, they actually do record some data, not by license plate, but aggregate data on speeds and what have you. I would love to see from around, not just the one that happened to be in front of my house, but around the village, any summary of that data. I'd just be curious what we are learning from that. in addition to hopefully trying to get people to slow down when they see one of those signs.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I didn't think about it. Yeah, just the summary
Very,
data.
had a very positive interaction, as you know, with one of your officers when she came to pick up the sign in front of my house, and which was what I didn't realize it was anything more than a flashing light, that there actually was information being recorded. So
It'll give us top speeds and average speed and time of day, number of vehicles and stuff like that. So.
Is that similar to what our community number 6 does with their?
Exactly that.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah.
Have
They-
the smiley face if you're under the speed limit.
Ours isn't that. Well, ours are a little older, so they're a little more rudimentary, but we don't have the smiles and the frowns.
I've had people tell me that they've gone through some of those signs but they never got a ticket in the mail. And I don't think you're supposed to get a ticket in the mail.
It's not. There's no cameras
Still
on it.
coming.
It
Yeah,
is
it's a
only
deterrent.
a radar
It is-
and an
It
output.
is a deterrent. Well, thank you both.
But Mayor, can I just address
Yeah.
one thing? So Glenn mentioned it earlier, but the officer-involved shooting, that's one of the most difficult things the department can go through, and they did a great job, not only with the actual situation on hand, but dealing with it afterwards and helping those police officers. So I commend you, Glenn. Maybe it helped that you were out of town, but no, your leadership and the department as a whole handled it very well. Thank you.
Thanks for that comment. Thank you to both of you. Public safety is the primary function of a successful municipality, and I think you have a lot of support here among the council and a lot of respect from our residents. So appreciate it. Thanks very much.
And on another note, the recording and the live stream are now back up and running.
Okay. All righty. Let us move to the consent agenda. All items that are considered routine or have been discussed at length in previous meetings will be enacted by one motion. No separate discussion will be held unless requested by a member of the village council. We'll be taking up approving village council meeting minutes of July 22nd in our regular meeting and July 22nd in our work session meetings. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve all items listed and considered routine on the consent agenda.
second.
Motion and second. All's in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We've heard that business. That ends the consent agenda. Now we will go on to honorary resolutions. We actually have
You want to go ahead and
two.
have a motion on that, just to approve them?
Well, yeah.
And actually, so let's hold off on the second one. Richard is not able to make it here tonight, so we'll do that at the next meeting when he can be here to
Okay.
do it in person.
Thank you. Then we have one.
Yeah, we can give Mike all the glory tonight.
All right. Well, that's well deserved. And we'll call him forward in a minute to read, and we can embarrass him publicly by reading about all the things he's done for the village. But let me begin, and I'm sure my colleagues have some remarks also. When you think about someone in a position for 21 years, that's quite a length of time. That's longer than a lot of marriages last. I mean, this man, he has really been a steadfast individual here, giving this village and various councils advice. He's sort of the Cal Ripken of village attorneys. I did a little searching on who else has been in these jobs longer. I couldn't come up with somebody. But I did take a historical look back, and I was to figure out when he started, what was the world like? What were we doing in America? And there were some interesting things that the Chief Justice of the United States, which Mike might be interested in, was William Rehnquist. That's how long ago it was. Here's something a little local. The New England Patriots won the Super Bowl by beating the Carolina Panthers. So that happened 21 years ago. And at that Super Bowl, you might not remember the two teams that it played, but you'll probably remember that was the Super Bowl where Janet Jackson had a wardrobe malfunction. Just for historical purposes, so everybody can remember what Super Bowl that was. Mike didn't have anything to do with that. That 21 years ago is when Mark Zuckerberg launched Facebook. Now, unfortunately, we're all using it, or a lot of us, not me. 21 years ago, the Boston Red Sox beat the Yankees in the American League Championship Series. After losing their first 3 games, they came back and won 4 in a row. And then they went to the World Series and they went on to win it for the first time since 1918. The Boston Red Sox won it. That was the year that Ronald Reagan passed away at age 93. So a lot has gone on as you go back and reflect where we were 21 years ago. But a lot of good things came to the village during that period of time. So, Mike, we thank you. And I think my colleagues may have a comment or two. And I will ask Dr. Morgan to kick us off there.
Thanks. Back when you first put in your resignation on this, Mike, I had a fair amount to talk about, and I'm not going to rehash everything. But I'm very proud of the resolution that you're going to get here. A couple things I do want to highlight. We're talking about 21 years of service, and while I'm not going to go through the history of the past 21 years here, I do want people to understand just what a great service that Mike Newman has provided for the village of Pinehurst. It's a tough job. It's not like you have a single client who's talking to you across the table. You've got the entire village. And if you might not have figured this out yet, there's some varying opinions in the village. There's also varying opinions on the council, and he has to address that. He has to be able to say to give advice as to what he thinks is the best route for the village itself. And oftentimes, it's not necessarily a direction that a council member wants to go, or a mayor wants to go, or the village manager wants to go, and things like that. So it's a challenging task for any attorney, and I can't think of anybody who could possibly do it better than Mike Newman. So you have done a wonderful job in managing what I think is a very difficult and dynamic situation. Certainly what I have seen in the 4 years that I have been on the council. And you've done that through absolutely outstanding character. And I cannot think of any example of an attorney I have worked with, not that I've worked with a ton of them, but I have certainly seen my share of them, especially in leadership roles and things like that. But I cannot think of a single attorney who has carried the ethical charge better than you have. And in my opinion, you have set the standard of what all attorneys ought to aspire to in the ethical conduct of your profession. So thank you for that. I do encourage you to go and look at some of Mike's background. He is on the internet, and there's a lot of stuff out there. He's a man who actually took a case before the National Supreme Court. He's got a lot of accolades on there. North Carolina boy, lots of good stuff on there. But I want to focus mainly on you, the service you have done, and just how well you have done it. So thank you, sir, for all you have done. We are proud of you. Thanks.
Taylor.
Yeah, I guess a couple of things. First of all, I've been fortunate in my year and a half on the council to really only had to have been on sort of the tail end of one piece of litigation that would largely been decided before I was elected. And so it'd be easy to say, well, I haven't had that much actual interaction, but that's a good thing, because as you've often observed, preventing us from getting in a place where we're in court is much more valuable than the advice you present, or at least as valuable, I think more valuable than the advice you render after that. Like Jeff, I've certainly in 40 years in the financial world dealt with an awful lot of attorneys. But this was a different experience because in a lot of cases we were looking at prospective legislation at the state level, and beyond the ability to analyze sort of what I will call legal nuts and bolts, I thought you had a great feel for the personalities that might be deciding it. And that too, I think, has been incredibly valuable. So although our terms did not overlap a great deal, I thank you very much for your service. I think a job very, very well done.
Mark Picklin.
I cannot imagine having 21 years of dealing with how many different councils and coming out sane, and you did. At least I think you did. Like John, I haven't had much opportunity to interact, but as I look over the past 21 years, which is how long I have been in Pinehurst, certainly a lot has gone on, and a lot of controversy, a lot of issues that we've had to struggle through, and appreciate your guidance as we've done that. And I think of the years around COVID being particularly difficult for everyone in government, and helping guide the council through that time must have been very challenging. So thank you for your service. I hope you enjoy your next 21 years.
Jack.
Second all those, and I've observed Mike, I guess, over the last 16, 18 years that I've been observing and or on or in the periphery of council, and I have seen Mike deal with quite a variety of council members and other staff members, and I think he's always been very professional and right most of the time. We once in a while had a little difference, I will admit, but for the most part, when the arguments were brought out in excruciating detail, it turns out Mike, unfortunately, in most cases, was right. Good job there. So he's dealt with a variety of people in a variety of situations too. I think between the land use issues, the personnel issues, the council issues, the you name it. You name it. There's quite a variety of issues that you have to deal with, in the role that he plays, and I think he's done an outstanding job in each one of those cases. So it's been a pleasure watching, observing, learning. And I certainly respect everything you've done and will do in the future. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, can I take a turn as well?
Yes, of course.
So thank you. So I've worked with dozens of municipal attorneys in my career, and Mike is certainly the most responsive that I've ever dealt with. So you send him a text message, and he's calling you before you can even set the phone down. So he has been amazing in that respect. Also, Mike is the most entertaining attorney I have ever met. He keeps the meeting exciting, fun, and as has been said, with good legal advice as well. So very much enjoyed working with you, and I look forward to seeing you around town and bothering you as much as I can, whenever I can.
Okay. I'm going to ask Mike to come down up here, especially when he's got that sport coat on.
Before you go.
Want me to move to approve the resolution
Yeah.
2534 honoring Mr. Michael Newman?
Go ahead.
I move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion adopted. Now let's read what we're going to tell him. All right, let me read this. A resolution honoring the service of Mr. Michael J. Newman. Whereas the Village Council of the Village of Pinehurst wishes to acknowledge and express its gratitude and appreciation to Mr. Michael J. Newman for 21 years of dedicated public service to its citizens, and whereas Mr. Newman faithfully served as the village attorney from September 2004 to August 2025, and whereas Mr. Newman provided the Village Council, village advisory boards, departments, and staff with expert legal counsel, guidance, and representation with the highest level of professionalism, integrity, and commitment. And whereas Mr. Newman played a vital role in drafting and reviewing ordinances and resolutions, advising on municipal law, guiding the village through complex legal matters, and ensuring that the actions of the village complied with all applicable laws and regulations. And whereas Mr. Newman's wise counsel, institutional knowledge, and tireless work ethic have contributed greatly to the growth, stability, and governance of the Village of Pinehurst. Whereas the Village Council and the residents of the Village of Pinehurst have benefited from Mr. Newman's unwavering dedication and longstanding service to the community, now therefore be it resolved by the Village Council of the Village of Pinehurst in a regular meeting on this day, the 12th of August, 2025, as follows. that the Village Council hereby expresses on behalf of the citizens of the Village of Pinehurst its sincere gratitude and appreciation to Mr. Michael J. Newman for 21 years of distinguished and honorable service as village attorney. And a copy of this resolution will be spread upon the permanent minutes of the Village of Pinehurst, duly executed today, August 12th. Congratulations, Michael Newman.
Well, I guess first for council, I'm just blown away. That was amazing to start back at what was going on in 2004. I had forgotten all about that kind of stuff. But thanks, Mr. Mayor, for those recollections, and I appreciate every one of the council members' kind comments, and Doug's, yours as well. You know, 21 years is a long time, but one of the greatest things, one of the best things about that period of time is all these folks sitting in the back, is the staff that I've got to work with for 21 years. I've been around, I'm coming up on 40 years of practice, and I've been around the state. There is no better municipal staff in North Carolina than what the Village of Pinehurst has. Every single one of these guys and gals are top-notch. They know what they're doing, they know the law, and they're dedicated. And it's been the privilege of my lifetime to work with you guys and to call you guys friends. So I'm still going to be right down the street from you guys. I'm not going to wear this anymore. I'll be back in my blue jeans in about 15 minutes here. But I'll be at my office, swing by. I still tell the best dad jokes. And again, I want to thank you all so much for 21 years. It's been an absolute blessing. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mike. Congratulations. Okay. Now we will go on to item 6 on our agenda, public comments. While we are collecting those.
Mr. Mayor, while Shannon grabs that, we have a few members on waiting to be appointed to advisory committee, so maybe we can do public comments and then skip 7 and 8 and move to resolutions, if everyone's okay with that.
You want to skip what now, 7?
7 and 8 and come to those after we do.
Go to
the
9
resolutions.
first.
Oh, okay. Sure. Makes sense. So we'll hear the public comments. We have a couple of people who have signed up, and if you haven't signed up, you can, when we're through with these two individuals, you can come forward and address the council. First, we have Mr. Wayne Boyles on Sugar Pine Drive. Wayne? Please speak into the microphone and identify yourself.
Mayor Pasella, Mayor Pro Tem Taylor, Councilmember Morgan, Councilmember Ficklin, and Councilmember Farrell, thank you for your service, firstly to Pinehurst and that of your staff. As a former Senate staffer, I know how hard staff work to support you. And thank you for the opportunity to comment on the latest North Carolina Department of Transportation proposed design for the Pinehurst traffic circle. A first observation, it was my experience that the present Pinehurst traffic circle waiting times are not all that long, mine no more than about 6 minutes. We moved here from the Northern Virginia, D.C., Maryland suburbs area, and the navigation of traffic circles, especially in the District of Columbia, were part of the driving routines there. One of the features of the traffic circles, especially on Massachusetts Avenue, were underpasses which facilitated and eased traffic flows. There were 3 traffic circles on Massachusetts Avenue, one DuPont Circle, which had an inner and Outer Circle, with Connecticut Avenue as the underpass, Scott Circle, which had 16th Street as an underpass, and 3 Thomas Circle, which had Massachusetts Avenue as an underpass. I think it would be helpful to consider digging an underpass so that north-south traffic on 15501 could go straight under in both directions, greatly easing traffic congestions. Some have suggested this may kill vegetation in the traffic circle. I think if dug under the root lines of the pine trees, you would have extremely minimal damage. Bechtel Engineering and Construction, with corporate headquarters in Western Virginia, could be tasked with digging the underpass tunnels under the present circle. That company built the Washington, D.C. metro system, and there have been many similar transportation projects successfully undertaken of this type throughout the country. One of the largest was a Central Artery project in Boston that literally ran Interstate 95 under the city. Bechtel served as a key partner on this project, commonly referred to as a Big Dig. It remains one of the largest and most complex infrastructure projects in the history of the United States. I've driven that route, and it is a fine piece of engineering. So I do hope this option can be considered. For in my judgment and observation, it would preserve much of the present circle, take a minimum of additional land, and be a most efficient way to ease traffic congestion. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your comments. As you may have seen on the agenda, we'll be addressing the traffic circle issue in our work session. Next item is from Barbara Summers of Lake Hills Road. Barbara, please come forward.
Thank you all for your time. I would like to acknowledge Dr. Morgan. He replied quite promptly to my husband's email in reference to this, so I want to thank him, and then he passed the information along, and also Mike Epke, who was able to get back to us, surprisingly, today with some thoughts and apologizing for our situation. I'm here just to voice a concern about the drainage that occurs on Lake Hills Road. We're at 180 Lake Hills Road, and over the past few years, every time we have excessive rain, flooding, the drainage ditch in front of our house overflows and pushes back into our property. On the June event, it was fairly substantial, but obviously in this last event on July 6th, it extensively came over. It moved over that whole front area down into our driveway. Fortunately, it did pass between our house and the house next door, so it didn't hit but a little bit of underneath our house. But down the driveway, we had extensive rain flooding, came into our garage where we had probably about 2 to 3 inches of rain, and then it did move back to our back patio. And fortunately, because of the step going into our family room, I think it helped direct the water so it did not continue to come up and come into that room, went out into our backyard. It's frustrating. We've been here for 23 years. I've been in that house the entire time. And to have to think that now we have to spend close to resolve this problem between repairing that whole wall, the water came in the garage, and some things under our house, we're probably looking at close to $20,000 in repairs. And we're going to have to kind of phase some of those in. Now, when Mike replied to us today, he did indicate that he's going to get a crew out, they're going to take a look. They hope to maybe build the berm up a bit, which could help stop that flow of water. But to me and my husband, I think that's a little bit more of a temporary fix, but if it saves us from maybe the next water event that we may have, because we're not, let's face it, not through hurricane season and we just never know about another tropical storm. Our biggest question is, why do the people at the other end of Lake Hills, who are on our same side of the street, their drainage ditches are covered over? So the water moves under that. Does not have a reason to flow over the berm that's there. And obviously, by the time it gets down to us, it's picked up steam. There's all that water that has moved down. The pipe that goes under one of the approaches of our driveway isn't big enough, and then it pushes it back, and that's a part of the problem of why it's coming in. The gentleman who lives at the other end of our street, who I have no idea who he is, he has sandbags on his. And on the fact of having to do sandbags, and the fact, to me, it's not a good look, especially people are coming into town to maybe look at property, thinking about what I like to live there. What are they seeing? Is obviously there's a drainage problem. So I hope that this can be addressed. We're happy to talk to anybody else along the way. Someone did come out the day after the storm, and I think it was somebody from maybe the fire department, and they were taking some pictures to help out. And I think those pictures were going to go maybe for some possible federal funding. Don't know how that exceeded, but it was nice to see somebody out to try to address the situation for us. So that's our concern. I know other people on my street had it even worse than we did, where they've had to replace air conditioning units and 2 to 3 feet in their crawl spaces. So something's not quite right.
Thank you for,
Thank
for sharing that. You are not alone in having gone through what many people in the village have during these storms and floods, and we are looking at the problem and trying to find the best possible solutions. We do spend a good amount of money every year on stormwater management, but these recent storms have sort of been a little more extreme than even we planned for. But we appreciate the feedback, and please continue to give it to us. I'm glad that Mike and the fire department were out there trying to assist you, or rather gather probably information as to what could be done. Okay, thank you. Doug, do you have anything to add to that topic?
No, I'll just follow up with Mike Apke to see
Okay.
what he's thinking, and we can move forward from there.
Okay. Right. Okay. Anybody else have yes, please come forward, identify yourself, and make your public comment.
Hello, I'm Debbie Pennington, 165 Lake Hills Road. Sorry, I'm not prepared. Didn't know I was speaking tonight, but thank you for letting me come up. I share the same problems as I'm a neighbor. My problem is not only does the water come from up to the top of Lake Hills, straight past my property, and takes out the bottom of my driveway, but Balsterall Road is above me slightly, and all the water comes from the golf course down through the back of my property and then comes across my driveway. So I've already, out of my pocket, spent $5,000 just this last week having my entire driveway redone. I had basically half of my driveway was completely taken out, put into the drainage ditches of both my yard and my next door neighbor's yard, which I've had to have dug out twice now. The storm that preceded the major storm 3 weeks ago. What I see is we had literally rapids coming down our neighborhood, or between our houses, but it's coming not only from the golf course behind me, but the street above me too, and there's just no drainage that has been dug to stop this water from coming down. It also went into my crawl space, so I've had damage to my crawl space. So I'm also looking at, right now, the estimates that I have is $17,000 that is coming out of my pocket. I don't have that kind of money right now, but that's how much damage I have. So I just wish that we could get engineers or somebody, or the planning commission or somebody, to come out and really take a look at what damage that we have suffered in our area from all the water that's just coming down. And anytime we've had a major rainstorm, whether it's a major thunderstorm or hurricanes that have come through, we've suffered some sort of water damage. But this last couple of times have been tremendous. So anyway, any help that we can get from planners or whoever would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Anyone else who would like to address the council? No? If not, okay. Then we will now end the public comments period. And we will go on to, we're going to skip forward, as Doug mentioned, to item 9, resolutions. Doug, how would you like us to proceed on these?
Yeah, we could just go through these in order.
Okay.
I would like to just offer, before we get to the formal motion, credit to Shannon for coming up with the idea of grouping these all together so we don't have to do them all as a separate motions.
And we certainly would,
Minimum, that will save a little bit of time.
we certainly would like those folks that are here present, whose names are here, to come forward and talk to the council.
Yeah, so maybe we can go through them all one by one, just introduce them if they're here, and then we can make one resolution at the end.
Fine.
Do it that way. So the first one is resolution appointing Mrs. Janet Farrell as the chair of the beautification committee. Janet is not right, she's not here. Okay, good. But she has served as the chair before, and there were no other volunteers to serve as chair of the beautification committee. We know that she is a very patient woman due to her dealing with her husband. Janet will be a great fit, and we're excited to have her complete the rest of the term now that our current chair has resigned her position.
Is it okay that if there's someone in the audience who is a close facsimile to Janet Farrell, could come forward and represent her, or is that not done often?
I don't think we need to do.
Okay, we'll pass on that. Okay,
Next up, we have Miss Amy Fushi. Amy, if you want to come up,
please
introduce yourself briefly. Amy, she's been a real estate paralegal for over 30 years. She's a title insurance underwriter, and we're considering her for the Planning and Zoning Board. So this real estate experience comes in very handy. She also worked for a commercial outlet that had to present in front of a lot of planning and zoning boards. So it would not be a new experience for her dealing with municipalities and serving on this type of role.
welcome, Amy. Tell us a little bit about yourself so the community can hear how long you've been here, what neighborhood you live in.
I live in number 6. We've been here since...
Pull the mic a little closer.
Oh, sorry. We've been here since 2021. Well, I've owned the house since 2021. Did a full remodel, moved in 2023, had a flood, had to move back out. So, but I've owned the house since then. I'm married, have 2 children, 3 grandchildren. I love real estate. Like I told John when I had breakfast with him, it's a black hole. You either love it or you hate it, and if you love it, you just stay there. So when Kevin mentioned that this position was available, I went and looked it up online and thought, that's perfect for me. I love real estate. I love being a part of this community and just hope to serve well.
Thank you. Where did you move from?
I moved from Greensboro.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
I'm a North Carolina born and raised.
Oh,
so.
okay, North Carolina. Any of my colleagues have any questions for Amy? No? Okay.
I mentioned that we did have breakfast yesterday, and I think Amy will be an excellent addition to PNC.
That's great. Well, it's may well be our most important advisory board, so we appreciate your willingness to serve.
Thank you. I look forward to
your
it.
Insight. Thank you very much, Amy.
Thanks. Next up, we can have Joe Rosario.
Sure.
Joe, if you don't mind coming up. Joe is up for appointment to be on the Historic Preservation Commission. Joe is a real estate developer by trade. Previously, he worked a lot in developing hotels and a particular interest in adaptive reuse for old buildings and turning them into hotels. And he told us, I don't know, maybe he's just pulling our leg, but that he and his wife go around the historic district and look at architecture on dates. So maybe that was just to get appointed to this commission, but if he really does that, that's impressive. So.
Well, Joe, pull the mic forward and then tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been in the village and where you live and all that.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and fellow council members. I appreciate the time and opportunity. I don't know if I was I think it's pretty accurate. I mean, I'm from the Northeast originally, from New York. My wife has been living here in the area. She's a physician at First Health for about almost 10 years now. Her family's relocated here, and her and I met about 5 years ago, and you know, I've lived here almost ever since, you know, here and there. But fell in love with Pinehurst pretty easily. It reminds me of home. That's the first thing I noticed was the architecture and you know, the Cape Cod styles and all of that. And so it was very familiar to me. So I do drive around my golf cart every weekend, get a cup of coffee and look at some of the beautiful architecture around here. Yeah, I work in real estate. I have a passion for it, and you know, just looking to join, do my part, join the community, and you know, I plan on being here for a long time. So I want to get started and give back.
That's great. And where do you live in the village?
Oh, I'm sorry. We moved to Village Acres. Yep.
Great. Well, thank you for your willingness to serve. I don't know if anybody. This is a former chairman of the Historic Preservation Commission. He may have a question or two, or anybody else.
I find this concept of walking around looking at architecture for days very shaky, very suspect. But
my wife might enjoy it, but I would just look forward to the ice cream.
you said you come from New York. Where in New York that this kind of reminded you of?
Well, so I spent a lot of summers out actually in New England, Rhode Island, Cape Cod. I've got family up there as well. I mean, I've got family on both sides of the Boston-New York argument, so when you mentioned that earlier, I kind of recoiled back in my chair a little bit. But yeah, so I've spent a lot of summers out in, you know, Cape Cod, Nantucket, and places like that, and I mean, it was very, very similar to a lot of the architecture. I mean, when you look into, when I came here, I was a little confused as to, you know, why there were so many, you know, New England cottages out everywhere, and you know, you do a little research, you understand why, and so it made sense.
Great. Well, thank you for volunteering.
Yeah.
Anything else? Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, great. And then our last one is Lolly Adelman is being nominated to be on the Historic Preservation Commission as well. You're welcome to join us up here. And Lolly loves historic preservation. She was also a art history major, so she has an eye for this stuff. But we'll let you introduce yourself.
Welcome. Tell us about yourself and where you live here.
Hi, my name's Lolly Adelman. Sorry, I haven't spoken on a microphone in a while. I live on Oakmont Circle, married. I have a teenage son. We are recently new to Pinehurst, last 2 years. As I say that, we moved from California, don't hate us, and to have a better life and a better upbringing for our son, who's an enthusiastic golfer. And we just fell in love with the village, and instead of investing my time like I used to volunteering in the schools, my son is now older and has no desire for me to be around. I'm finally able to do something that I enjoy, and this is what I enjoy. I absolutely love, like Joe was saying, I do. I walk around the village with my cup of coffee and stalk every home and how everything's done. But being a part of something that's so rich in history and the influence that it has on the future, it's very exciting to be a part of.
Great. Well, again, thank you for your willingness to serve. I think you found the right advisory board, historic preservation.
Yes.
And you'll now be required to walk around sometimes and check out some houses. Isn't that right, Mr. Taylor?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. Any other questions or comments?
Just a question here. While there was a tremendous amount of intrinsic rewards and payment from this, you do understand there's no extrinsic or funding as the payment, right? So if you're calling your mom saying, I got a job with an art history major.
Right. Hey.
Okay.
It's been many years, but that's true.
Okay. Jack, did you have something?
So we'll have 2 new members of the Historic Preservation Commission.
Yeah.
And one to the
I think they'll
P&Z.
find the major challenge is speaking into the microphone.
Okay. Now,
We have, yeah, one more appointment. So Joe Iverson is not here, but we
He's-
are asking that he be appointed as the chair of the Historic Preservation Commission.
That he's currently a member of.
He's currently a member, so I think most of you do know Joe already.
Yes.
Right.
And I think he would be a great leader for Joe and Lolly as they take on their new roles.
Okay.
So then are we up to full strength now?
I
with,
believe HPC will be fully staffed. Or
Great.
all
That's great.
positions
Yeah.
filled, yes.
Good.
Terrific.
And,
And the planning and zoning is,
We still have one
Right.
that's open.
okay.
I'll be happy to make the motion for all these at once and then just have a second.
think
and
that would
one
be
single
great.
vote, if that's okay.
But we're not including F, right? We'll address F.
Everything but F.
Okay, go ahead, Dr. Moore.
All right. So I move to approve the following resolutions of appointment. A, Resolution 2536, appointing Ms. Janet Farrell as Chair of the Beautification Committee effective August 12th, 2025, said term expiring on June 30th, 2026. B, Resolution 2537, appointing Ms. Amy Fushi to the Planning and Zoning Board and Board of Adjustment effective April 12th, 2025, to serve at the pleasure of the Council till the end of her term on August 31st, 2027. C, Resolution 2539, appointing Mr. Joe Rosario to the Historic Preservation Commission effective August 12th, 2025, to serve at the pleasure of the Council until the end of his term on August 31st, 2027. D, Resolution 2540, appointing Ms. Lolly Adelman to the Historic Preservation Commission effective August 12th, 2025, to serve at the pleasure of the Council until the end of her term on August 31st, 2027. E, Resolution 2541, appointing Mr. Joe Iverson as Chair of the Historic Preservation Commission effective August 12th, 2025, to serve at the pleasure of the Council until the end of his chairperson term on August 31st, 2027.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. All's in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Congratulations to all our newly appointed members of our advisory boards. Thank you. And now I guess we'll address F, or do you want to go back?
Yeah,
No,
F's fine. We can do that.
Let's go ahead and do that. So that has to do with the sale of certain real property at public auction. So go ahead, Doug. This is a
Yeah, at I believe it was our last meeting, we had discussed 5 parcels that we might want to put out for surplus auction, and this would just authorize the sale of 2 of those. We discussed doing 2 at a time, and these are the 2 we are asking to move forward on.
this is the start of the process.
Yes.
And this is just to be, in addition to being the beginning of the process, we've already had one successful, I'll call it experiment, about a month or so ago, where we put a lot up and we got a very good price. And one of the benefits of this, if we are to sell these, is these are village-owned lots, so they'll now hopefully pass into private hands, and then we'll be on the tax rolls for the village of Pinehurst rather than not on the tax rolls. So it'll mean probably a little more income in our coffers, and perhaps people will decide to build a home and live here and join the community. So I really appreciate the staff's work on this, because this is about sort of growing our community, much in the way it's grown in the past. People buying a lot of land and then putting a home on it. So any comments from anybody?
2 questions. First of all, I thought we were going to pair the 2 Morganton Road properties. Was there a reason we didn't do that?
Yeah, so that was the plan. So recently, one of those Morganton Road properties is underwater. So we're like, yeah, let's look at this a little bit closer before we go out and sell this one.
And secondly, we spent a decent amount of time considering the concept of a minimum bid. I don't see that here. We're trusting the forces of the market.
Yes, and you will have the ability to decide whether or not to accept it.
Any other comments or questions? None. Is there a motion?
I move to approve Resolution 25-43, authorizing the sale of certain real property at public auction for the following village-owned properties. The vacant lot located at 7 Calhoun Lane, parcel ID 000-21657, Unit 9, Lot 147, Papa Hotel 1, and the vacant lot located at 1210 Morganton Road, parcel ID 000-24098, Unit 8A, Lot 613, Papa Hotel 1.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
And a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion adopted. Go forth on that. All right. shall we go back to 8?
I move to recess the regular meeting and enter the public hearing.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we are taking up the public hearing of the official zoning map amendments for 55 Rattlesnake Trail. And this deals with the piece of property which we swapped with Moore County for the emergency management station property, right?
Right, yep.
Okay.
Uh,
We're in a public hearing right now, so
Yeah, Alex will give us a brief introduction while he's pulling up the presentation. Mayor, you're exactly right. This is the property that we're proposing to swap with Moore County. And so the existing zoning does not allow us to have a public safety building within that zoning. So we are asking it to be rezoned to neighborhood commercial.
Okay.
Which is what the property was zoned previous to the form-based code small area plan.
okay. Alex, go right ahead.
Well, with that introduction by Doug, I don't know that it leaves too much more to go through, but I do appreciate that introduction while we're getting this presentation pulled up. It is a brief presentation. As Doug said, we are the property owners and we are the petitioners of this zoning change. The property in question is identified as parcel ID number 100000849. And again, the property is currently zoned Village Place Form-Based District Block H, and we are petitioning to change that zoning classification back to neighborhood commercial. Meaning that's what it was zoned before the amendments that this council adopted back in 2023 that put it into the Village Place Form-Based District. The property is currently vacant, and the anticipated future land use, again, would be to allow for a public safety station. This hearing, of course, has been duly advertised and noticed as required by North Carolina General Statute and by the Pinehurst Development Ordinance. The subject property is indicated there on the map as the hatched area with the light blue outline just down Rattlesnake Trail off of the intersection with McCaskill. So this zoning map amendment is a quote-unquote conventional zoning map amendment, which means it is not a conditional zoning request, which this council is obviously very familiar with, which that means it does not allow for the inclusion of any conditions. And if approved, any of the allowed uses within the neighborhood commercial district would be permitted within this property. This is, of course, legislative decision and process, which does require the public hearing that we're in to receive public comment, and also carries a requirement that the Planning and Zoning Board conduct a public hearing and receive public comment and forward a recommendation to this council before their consideration. And when considering such amendments to the zoning text or the zoning map, such as this one, the Village Council shall consider the adopted comprehensive plan and any other plans, staff recommendation, and input from the public. So the property area is just under an acre at 0.92 acres, again, subject to be zoned neighborhood commercial to allow for the range of uses, including that public safety station. A little history on the recent zoning. Again, in 2023, Village Council approved the zoning change in the two form-based district, this one being Village Place form-based district. Formerly, it was, again, zoned neighborhood commercial. And the intent behind petitioning this rezoning is based on a lot of the discussions that have been made about hopefully facilitating development or redevelopment within the Village Place core block area, which is the area just down the hill from here, the intersection of Magnolia and McCaskill, heading up to Magnolia, and where the other properties at the village own, including the water tower properties in and around Pinehurst Brewery. That also includes the existing location of the Moore County EMS station there that fronts along McCaskill. And again, this is part of a deal that's being brokered between the Village of Pinehurst and Moore County for a land swap, so we could retain that existing property of the EMS station and give them a spot to relocate. A little bit about the adjacent land uses and zoning. As you can see, the area there along Rattlesnake, it's a very colorful zoning map indeed with the changes with the form-based district. Again, the subject property there is hatched, this time with a black outline. You have it surrounded by other Village Place form-based districts and all non-residential uses immediately in the area or the areas across abutting Rattlesnake Trail. And the same similar land use pattern continues down to McCaskill Road. Property is, of course, within the village's corporate limits. It has about 200 total feet of road frontage, so everything about the property is compliant with the neighborhood zoning or neighborhood commercial zoning district dimensional standards, including the minimum lot width, lot size, and the area, of course, is served by public water and sewer by Moore County Public Utilities. I mentioned about the list of allowed uses within the neighborhood commercial district. This is a little bit of a breakdown between what significantly those changes could be if the neighborhood commercial zoning designation is placed back on the property. On the right column, you'll see there those list of uses that would be permitted within the neighborhood commercial zoning district that are currently not permitted within the form-based district. Environmental, the property is located within a public water supply watershed, the WS3 Nicks Creek watershed, which does limit non-residential development to 24% built-upon area unless a special intensity allocation is granted. This council has recently had a special intensity allocation before you, so you have some idea of what that entails. I would recommend that since this is something that the village is in the driver's seat, we are the property owner, we're petitioning, that with a consideration of this rezoning request, much like is already included with a conditional zoning district request, that the village council consider going ahead and granting that special intensity allocation tonight. That would take, again, just shy of an acre out of that balance, which would still leave us with well over 280 plus acres within the WS3 watershed protection area.
Go over that one more time for me. I'm trying to understand what that transaction would do.
So special intensity allocations, if you're going to allow for development to exceed that special provision that watershed protection areas have on built-upon surface or off, if it's a residential type use, on a density cap. The state legislature, when they enacted the watershed regulations, again, identified these special areas, and then they gave a 1070 option for local jurisdictions, which means you can take 10% of your balance of your watershed and allocate additional built-upon area on a project-by-project basis and allow it to go up to 70% built-upon area. State mandates that best management practices have to be incorporated for stormwater management, not just as a quantity, but as a quality or a treatment component for stormwater runoff. If this were not to be granted with the consideration of the rezoning request, at which point in time the anticipated public safety station were to come before and have a detailed site plan reviewed by the technical review committee, you would have to hear me give you all that explanation one more time, although with a more finite plan than what we have before us today.
So we are anticipating that their built-upon area will be greater than 24% when in fact they create the public safety station.
Yep. And most of that has been based on the analysis we were able to do is based on a planned renovation on the existing property, so we have an idea of kind of generally what their footprint or what their needs are going to be, knowing that they have limited space there. With this lot, they would have a little bit more available space for
Could you
room
go back
within.
one slide? As I look down here on the right, let me make sure I saw it. Public safety station. It's allowed with special requirements. Is this the special requirement you're talking about?
No, there's different standards that would apply based on whatever that special requirement is. This special intensity allocation is universally applied throughout that watershed, which is our second largest watershed in our district.
I'm not sure that was your question, but this is considered a public safety station if the county puts an EMS unit there.
Yes.
And that would not be allowed if we don't change the zoning, because under form-based district block H,
Is not permitted.
it's not permitted.
Correct.
Thanks.
And so 24% of the .92, that's roughly a 10,000 square foot building.
And
We anticipate they might need Marginally more than that?
Drive, access, aisles, or anything else,
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
There are no other environmental considerations on the site, including floodplain wetlands. The comprehensive plan, again, you're kind of, required to crack the book and look at the plan and make some sort of statement on general consistency with that plan. So way back in 2019 now, when the current comprehensive plan was adopted, you see the area was kind of identified as a mixed-use center, which was kind of debated at the time, and really the neighborhood commercial district, and in a lot of cases, the form-based district does support a lot of that vision there in that area. And this is, again, how it's identified in what's kind of considered the future land use map in the 2019 comprehensive plan, but is labeled the conservation and growth map. There are other guiding principles within the 2019 comprehensive plan that the village council could consider as being consistent when considering the zoning map amendment, including guiding principle 2, which allows for the balancing the need for purpose, quality development, and strategic locations. And again, this is all really related to trying to facilitate some redevelopment within the Village Place core blocks area. Supporting infrastructure and utilities, guiding principle number 6. Obviously, it's kind of appropriate considering we had the reports from our public safety chiefs earlier today and talking about the sheer amount of EMS station or EMS calls that are ran to. This allows them to set up a new facility very nearby where they are now and able to answer the need for those calls. So that's pretty consistent with supporting the infrastructure. And utility is kind of a broad term. Other relevant information, and a lot of this was included in the staff report, and you see on page 197 of the plan, it talks about nodes of mixed-use development. And again, in most cases, the Village Place form-based district is consistent with this standard. The neighborhood commercial district, as seen by the other expanded allowed uses, would also meet this goal. And so therefore, we do consider that this proposal would be considered consistent with some of the guiding principles in conservation and growth map in the 2019 comprehensive plan. So the Planning and Zoning Board, back on July 10th, we didn't get this scheduled for Village Council sooner just because of the way the timing and meeting the required notice requirements. We couldn't get this before Council at their last meeting in July. But they held their public hearing on July 10th. No public comments were actually received during that hearing, and the board did ultimately unanimously recommend approval of the requested rezoning. And now Village Council's action after you conduct the hearing, listen to and me prepare my report and presentation, receive public comment, and you can take one of the following actions. You can, of course, approve the proposed rezoning and make some statement of consistency with the adopted plans. Any approval would need to be by adopting an ordinance, which is placed for consideration as a next agenda item. You may also deny the proposed map amendment and make a statement of consistency or inconsistency with the comprehensive plan. If something were to arise that we need to further consider, you can consider continuing the public hearing to gather more information. If that were to be an option considered by the Village Council, the specific time, date, and location would need to be stated on the record. And after you conclude the public hearing, you can also choose to defer action to another scheduled meeting. So to conclude with the presentation, we'll have the staff recommendation. Again, there's been a great deal of discussion with Village Council and administration between village staff and staff with Moore County. And we do recommend approval of this request to change the zoning classification back to neighborhood commercial. And again, it would include the recommendation of granting the special intensity allocation as a inclusionary approval with the rezoning. And this recommendation is based on the surrounding zoning environment being consistent with adjacent land uses and zoning within the area there along the Rattlesnake Trail corridor. And again, the big goal to help facilitate that redevelopment in the core block of Village Place.
If we want to grant the SIA, does that need to be part of the ordinance, or is that done by separate action?
It could be, in my opinion, it could be just added to the motion. Ideally, too, with the action of the ordinance, it would be better long-term if maybe we could have an amended ordinance to include that. But if, as long as it's in the motion, I think it will be covered enough for staff to go and administer that.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Any questions? Comments? None? All right.
Public hearing, right?
Right.
Is there anybody who wants to address this issue? Aside from Alex?
Looks like we had someone sign up.
Vicky Bowles. Is Vicky here? No, she's not. Okay. Then we have no one who has signed up, who's here. Is there anyone else who hasn't signed up who would like to speak? Seeing nobody, I think we can close the public hearing.
Move to adjourn the public hearing and re-enter the regular meeting.
Second.
Okay. Now we can consider the ordinance.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right. Motion and adopted. Now we can consider the ordinance.
I mean, I would be in favor of incorporating the grant of the SIA to
Yeah,
this.
no, I would make that part of the statement. So Doug, a quick question. Do we have any timeline from the county when they can actually, I mean, they got to appropriate funds to build a whole new station and so forth.
Yeah, so they, after I sent the memo out, they emailed me on Friday and said that they had approved it earlier in the week at their commissioners meeting to move this forward, and they sent me a draft lease, and they put it for 24 months. So I think their plan is to have it built or designed and built within the next 24 months.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Which, yeah, good luck to them. Yeah.
What is the necessity of a lease? Are they not acquiring this property?
So their existing property will now switch to our ownership. Yeah.
And do we have any, I know that we're not actually voting on the actual transfer, the swap, but are there any tax appraisal issues involved in that? I mean,
No.
they're both governmentally owned. Do they have a tax appraisal?
I mean, they'll be appraised by Moore County Tax Department, but there will be no difference to us. So
I mean, if one were materially of greater value than the other, we're limited in how much we can pay when we acquire property.
right. So there is not that requirement when it's a government-to-government exchange. And I'd have to double check, but I think the assessed values are close enough that it shouldn't be an issue
Good.
anyway.
Okay.
Do we have the SIA within the ordinance at this time?
We do not. So we could add.
We add it to the
Yeah.
statement?
So we could add a section.
8? No. Section
Probably section 7, another 7, and drop 7 to 8. Just saying that the.
Section 6.1 or something like that?
Sure, yeah. That there is a special intensity allocation of 0.92 acres for the development of a public safety facility at that site. Does that work, Alex? Is that what you need? Okay.
Okay, can do that.
And that will be incorporated into the ordinance itself. Does it have to be part of the motion?
Make it part of the motion and have it included in the ordinance?
Yeah, I would. Right, exactly.
Is amended with a section 6.1.
To include the SIA, yeah.
Go ahead. Jackie, you were going to.
Give it a shot. I move to approve ordinance 25-14 official zoning map amendment, rezoning approximately 0.92 acres of land on 55 Rattlesnake Trail, further identified by parcel ID 1000849 from Village Place, Form-Based District Block H to NC Neighborhood Commercial, effective August 12, 2025, and find the rezoning is consistent with the 2019 comprehensive plan, and add an amendment to such ordinance 6-1 allocating a special intensity allocation from our inventory of .92 acres to such parcel. Does that do?
That was beautiful.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
So adopted. There you go.
Alex, before you go, I happen to notice in the map that you put up, the land upon which we intend to build the library, on that was zoned neighborhood public open space. Has that been changed, or do we need to do that eventually?
Which property was that, John?
Land down the street on which we intend to build
The library. No, that's fine. That's a civic use that's allowed in the public conservation district.
It's considered open space even though we're putting a building on it.
It's just public conservation, so a lot of village or institutional type buildings or uses are allowed. This, where we sit right now, is on public conservation.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. We are now on to, I think, item 10. The reappropriations, the FY 2025.
I think we were allowed to have this without Dana here.
We have Sheila here to help us, so Sheila will be joining us. And as an introduction, while Sheila comes up, every year we take projects that we didn't quite complete in the previous fiscal year, and we take the rollover funds and we appropriate them. So that's the majority of what Sheila's going to talk about, but with that, I'll let her go into it in detail.
Bring up
I'll move it. It is very finicky.
Yep. Okay, that's good. Okay, so good evening, Council. This is a routine item we present each year to roll forward unspent budget funds, in this case from fiscal year 2025 to fiscal year 2026. At the close of the fiscal year, any unused budget appropriations close to the fund balance. The proposed ordinance returns the appropriations to the original budget line, thus reappropriating them to the fiscal year 26 for their intended purpose. On page 1 and 2 of the memo, we have provided a list of proposed appropriations by department and project. For the fiscal year 2026, the total request is $2,593,713, of which nearly $1.9 million pertains to construction and repair type appropriations. And you can see that total on page 2. Keep going.
Oh, here it is. It's stormwater. Okay.
Yeah, keep going. Yep, there you go. There's the 2.5. Okay. Let's see, what did I say? Of which nearly 1.9 million of that pertains to construction and repair type appropriations. These are in the form of streetscape improvements, pedestrian facilities, intersection improvements, and stormwater projects. These projects were in progress, but were not completed as of June 30th. Our departments worked very diligently to complete these projects. However, due to factors such as supply and contractor constraints, the projects could not be finished by year end. These projects are planned for completion in fiscal year 2026. So if you'll go on to page 3 of the memo, yeah, there with the pie chart, you will see a pie chart showing the appropriations by type. As you can see, the construction and repairs of 1.9 million, the light blue we just talked about, are making up about 3/4 of the pie in total. Now let's hit some of the highlights of the other ones. If we go to the top of the pie chart, you'll see the navy blue slice. That's the 232,000. That is made up of vehicles, and that is basically some police vehicle upfits, a garbage truck, and a dump truck. And the next slice in orange is for approximately 152,000, and that is for professional and contracted services, and that consists of the PDO rewrite and the document imaging project. Both of these projects are ongoing, and these funds are needed to pay the consultants in fiscal year 2026. The next slice in teal, that is $116,569. That is kind of a new category this year. Those are new requests. So those funds are not being reappropriated from fiscal year 25. Those are actually new requests being requested, and those consist of legal fee increases, expected legal fee increases, business insurance increases related to cyber insurance, and street repairs from Tropical Storm Chantel, and repairs to the floors at Harness Track Restaurant. These items were not in the FY 2025 budget, nor the FY 2026 budgets. And then the lime green slice of $140,000, that represents goods and supplies that have been ordered and not received. This primarily consists of uniforms for police and fire, system upgrades for the police phone recording systems, and the Assembly Hall audio-visual system. And finally, the last category, the small red slice of $27,700, that represents unspent donations and restricted funds. Those unspent balances are received in 2025, must be reappropriated to 2026 to ensure compliance with donor and statutory restrictions. And then all of that pie makes up the reappropriations that we are requesting in Ordinance 25-12.
The donations and restricted, those are a revenue item, all the rest are expense items.
Right. Mm-hmm. But we have to reappropriate those in order to spend those in FY 2026. And that's pretty much all I have.
Could we go back to the top of page 2, just for... Okay, good. What was the total of cyber insurance roughly? Somewhere between $10,000 and $20,000?
I believe that was, let me see.
Carlton, do you know what the
You know what
15?
that is?
Yeah, about 15,000.
About 15,000.
Can I
yeah.
ask a question about that? Are we purchasing a license that we then share with each program area, or how is that transaction done?
I'm not exactly sure.
Yes.
Carlton might, yes.
I could try, and when I mess up, Carlton can fix it. But we are buying additional cybersecurity insurance this year. So if we, had an event and we were hijacked and we had to pay ransom or some sort of situation like that, we would have additional coverage on our insurance, and that gets divvied out amongst all the different departments because it's a internal service.
So it's one purchase order in essence. Okay, thank you.
Doug, what, as it happens, at the end of the last meeting, I walked out with Jason and was actually asking him about cyber insurance and came away feeling like we don't have a lot of exposure there. And let me just expound on one piece of it. One of the more recent ransomware attacks was the city of Baltimore, and the attackers grabbed their tax records. And they said, if you don't pay us money, you won't be able to send out any tax bills, so you'll have zero income from that. That's a pretty serious thing for them. We don't bill for taxes. Obviously, the county does. And Jason we actually ended up spending probably 20 minutes out there. He talked about our backup procedures and so forth. And I came away feeling like we don't have a lot of exposure there. So I was curious to see that number. I'm not arguing with it. I'm not saying that we shouldn't approve this, but I'd just love to know a little more about it. And if we should save that for another time, given the hour, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, and maybe Carlton should jump in on this, but I believe our coverage was like very, very minor. So I'll let him say it. But I thought it was like we were tens of thousands, and this brought us up to hundreds of thousands of coverage.
Sounds like signs of the times.
It is. We were at $250,000 in coverage through our liability policy through the League of Municipalities. This is through Crum and Forrester. It's $3 million in coverage. They actually did an analysis for similar sized municipalities and organizations and recommended we be between 3 and 5. So we went with the lower end. And what that covers is if someone hacks our system, They have employee payroll records, social security numbers, bank account numbers for vendors, things like that. It protects us from, and this is former employees as well. And also with the scanning project that we're doing, we'll have much more availability of records online. So if they hack the system and get access to that, it just provides some coverage. And if they take our servers down, this also provides us a resource to get things back up and running more quickly than
Thanks
if we
very
do
much.
it on our own.
I've got one question. Help me understand the transaction. What is the impact on the 2025 year books, for lack of a better phrase? We're taking money that was appropriated last time.
Taking the money at the close of June 30th, those funds roll back into fund balance.
Okay.
Okay? So in order to spend those funds in 2026, we have to go back into fund balance and pull those out and reappropriate those in 2026.
So what does that do to the 2026 budget that we adopted of 30 million or what?
That will increase fund balance appropriated by the 2.5 million.
So the budget becomes $2.5 million more.
No, well, yeah, but fund balance is, the net
fund
is
balance-
zero.
The fund balance appropriated does, yes.
Fund balance goes up and expenses go down for last year, and fund balance goes up and expenses go up for this year.
For 26.
But our total budget increased by like $140,000, right? The budget we put together for 2026.
No, it goes up more. It goes up by
It's up by
that
this
number.
2.5.
Yeah.
New projects, you're right, Jack, is just
Yeah, I'm
the
sorry, yeah.
140.
Yeah, I thought there was just $140,000
Yeah,
in new.
that's
projects.
the only new thing. Everything else was originally budgeted last year, but gets rolled forward, and yes, the fund balance covers the cost of it in the new year.
So basically, this would be a net zero effect, except for those new requests of 116,000.
Okay, all right.
But the stated number would go up by the
The
total
stated
expense
number
amount.
would go up by the total, yes.
But are there any questions on those new projects? Because you haven't heard much about those. And one, we had the damage on Sugar Gum Road, so it's to pay for that after the storm. We had to fix the floor at the Harness Track restaurant because the inspector said he would not permit a new restaurant to go in there because it was so bad. What else was in there?
Legal services.
Legal services, yes, with our new attorney contract.
And then the cyber insurance.
So we covered all those.
All righty, any other questions? Is there a motion?
I move to approve ordinance 25-12, amending the fiscal year 2026 budget for reappropriations from fiscal year 2025.
Second.
Motion second, all's in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
adopted. Thank you, Sheila.
Sorry to keep you so late, Sheila.
Okay, we are now, I think, on to regular business. Close to the irregular business we've been doing. We have 3 items here. Doug, you want to open up A and follow with B and C?
Yes, so as you know, Mike Newman is retiring as our village attorney. And so we need to appoint a new one. We went through a RFP process, and council interviewed different applicants for providing village legal services. We all determined that Dan Hartzog Jr. and his group, Hartzog Law Group, would be the most advantageous for us to contract with moving forward. So this is a contract that would do that for the remainder of the fiscal year and would allow us to renew each fiscal year thereafter if we so desire. Included some biographical information on Dan Hartzog Jr., who will be our main point of contact. A UNC graduate from Chapel Hill. I hope that doesn't bother anyone.
Here we go. Okay. Any questions or comments so far from the council members?
I think we've been through this, went through the interview and everything else.
Yeah, I'm just checking if there's anybody.
I would also opine that it's the shortest contract I've ever seen written by a lawyer. Refreshing.
Yes.
I moved.
I think I had made one suggestion to include something in there about the report.
Yep, we amended it to include that.
Okay, great.
I move to approve the August 2025 Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, between Hartzog Law Group, LLP, and the Village of Pinehurst for legal services, and authorize the village manager to execute the MOU.
Have a motion? Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion adopted. We have a new village attorney. Okay.
All right, so the next item is would authorize me to finalize any documentation that we need to finalize the swap between Moore County and the Village of Pinehurst for their properties in on McCaskill Road for our property on Rattlesnake.
Okay. Have a motion for that?
I move to authorize the village manager to execute the land exchange agreement and associated deeds, and to negotiate and execute a lease agreement for the county's continued use of the existing public safety facility during the transition period while the new facility is constructed.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion adopted.
So Doug, when we, if we were to transfer this property to the county, it is no longer within our municipality?
It's still within our municipality, just the county will be the owner.
Okay. And for example, the property out on Juniper Creek,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's Juniper Lake, that is, county owns that now. It keeps showing up on our maps as.
Yeah, it is still a municipal satellite property because we annexed it at one time.
Even though we sold it to the county.
Yeah. Similar to when they owned the water tank property here in
Right.
the village, they owned it, still part of the village, our jurisdiction.
Interesting. Okay. So it's still considered a satellite part of the village.
Yep, that one on Juniper Creek or Juniper Lake, whichever it is, yes.
No, right. Easy for you to remember, yeah.
There may be a day where we want to de-annex that or whatever, but it's not hurting anything, so we've left
No,
it
it
as
isn't.
is.
I'm just curious because it keeps showing up in the map, and I know we sold it, so, okay. Thank you.
So we're set there.
Yep.
Okay. All right, now we go to the schedule of activities and funding requests for supporting mutual agreement of benevolence with the town of Dornoch, Scotland. Doug, why don't you walk us through?
Yeah, so as you are aware, in June 2023, we had an agreement that we came to, a agreement of benevolence and mutual agreement, something like that, with Dornoch, with the shared heritage of Donald Ross and the beginning of golf, both in the old world and here in the new world. We thought it would help create a cultural exchange, and it would be beneficial for both communities. Former Mayor John Strickland has negotiated or been in contact with officials from Dornoch. They are planning on coming to Pinehurst this November, and there's a schedule of activities that are included in the memo. And as part of that, they have asked that the village pick up some costs associated with them traveling over here, specifically a dinner that will be held on Saturday night. So in the memo, it says it's a $6,000 dinner, and that would be our contribution to their visit. And there is talk of, in 2 years, there might be a delegation that's coming from Pinehurst that would go to Dornoch, and every 2 years they switch back and forth. So this is what former Mayor John Strickland has worked towards. This is an appropriation that we did not include in our budget, so we wanted to bring it forward to the council to discuss.
And there's also been talks with the resort about these folks being guests and playing on the resort course.
Yeah, so while they're here, either as a generosity from the resort or someone else picking up additional costs. Both the lodging and the food and the golf have all been underwritten, and so there would not be a cost to the door knock officials coming over to visit.
And there'll be folks from the village of Pinehurst that will be invited to this dinner in addition to the visitors. And that will include village council members if they're available.
Yes, so the dinner's for approximately 40 guests. I believe council members will be invited, spouses as well, so.
All right.
I think that date is the Saturday prior to Thanksgiving.
It is, and it aligns with Donald Ross's birthday, I
Yeah.
believe his 153rd or something like that.
And some of you may recall that at least Doug, myself, and I forget who else was on a phone call last year. Was it last year, Doug? Or this year?
We've had two, but yeah, we did one last
phone calls
November.
with the folks in Dornich to sort of outline plans and think about the future as to how this relationship would evolve. So this is where it's headed. Does anyone have any other questions or comments on this? No. John, did you have something?
No.
Dr. Morgan?
Are you all in support of this? Okay. Is this a standard thing that happens when folks go? I mean, when John Strickland went over to Dornoch, did they provide dinners for him and lodging and stuff like that?
I don't recall. I think he went on his own.
I know he went on vacation. He paid for his own flight.
Yeah.
And we're not paying for their flights over here, and I understand that. But I guess the question is, we're talking about kind of an expectation here. And I don't know that, but there's also ethics rules that we have on accepting issues, okay? And so that concerns me, especially if this has now been set as a standard. To spend $6,000 of taxpayer monies for VIPs to have dinner, I don't agree with that, okay? Because that's what this is doing. You're taking a select group of VIPs and you're having dinner. When I was in the military and I went out to the field and they gave me an MRE to eat for lunch or dinner or breakfast or whatever it was, they deducted my pay to cover that expense. I just came from Florida with a change of command of the CENTCOM commander of Eric Carrillo, who's a classmate of mine from the academy. There was a party after celebrating this with senators, congressmen, ambassadors, chiefs of staff from the militaries of various places in the Middle East, and that party was subsidized by my class giving contributions because the U.S. military would not authorize it. So it was a personal contributions for it. So I think it's hypocritical here. We're talking about trying to get a cent or 2 cents or half a cent on taxes, yet we're willing to spend $6,000 for a VIP dinner. If you want to go to the dinner, then pony up for it personally. And if you got a guest, you pony up for them. If I'm going to the dinner, I don't know if I'll be around there or not, I'll be happy to pay my share of that $6,000 as 1/5 of this to cover myself, my wife, if the village manager is going, and whoever I'm supporting for Dornoch. What I will not do is go to the dinner having a taxpayer fund it for a bunch of VIPs. That I think is hypocritical.
What if a foundation such as the Donald Ross Society or some other organization were to fund this?
They want to pass the hat around? No problem. The Village of Pinehurst taxpayer should not pay for this dinner. And if someone in our board has accepted dinners and has accepted lodging or anything else in expenses on there, I think that needs to be looked at for an ethics violation for what's going on here, because that should not be a standard. Again, if I've got to go to the field and pay for my own dinner when I'm doing whatever attacks and ambushes and things like that with the U.S. military, when I have to go down to Tampa, and I don't have to, I did this voluntarily to contribute for my classmates' retirement ceremony on there. But each time when you're talking at the 4-star level, 3-star level, 2-star level, it's like paying for a wedding. So of course we contributed to help him out. Again, it just goes against a principle here that the Village of Pinehurst should not be paying for a VIP dinner on bringing people over. You want to pay for it yourself? Fine. You want to have some outside group contribute? Fine. If you want to have people go through the Donald Ross Association or whatever it is to contribute there, I got no problem with that. That's a privately done thing. The resort can do it because they're a private business. I understand that. It's totally different rules there. We
Well, let
are
me ask-
government.
Is there some ethics scrub we can give this as whether or not it's appropriate? If we're in if we're in violation of something, we shouldn't do it. But I don't know of anything that we're violating as far as a law.
I don't think we're going to be violating at this point in time. I'm saying if this has been established by a standard, by someone of our council that has gone and done this before with accepting the dinners and the hotels and things like that, I think that needs to be looked into. My point here is not necessarily that we are violating anything ethically right now by going with this and paying for it. I don't think it's the right thing to do for village taxpayers to have them pay for that. And I do not support this, and I'm going to vote against this. If you want to pass the hat around Pinehurst, you want to take it out of your own personal account, I got no problem with that. And I'm willing to, again, pay $1,200, myself and my wife, to go to this, to ensure that we are, in my opinion, doing the right thing as council, and not putting the village taxpayer on the hook.
Okay. Other thoughts?
Yeah,
Whether or not this relationship that we're
Um,
starting with.
Let me
Mark?
first, Jeff, ask you if, hypothetically, if I'm going to go and I pay my own way, whatever the 140 the share is or whatever, would you be okay with us paying for the guests? Not ourselves, not anyone from Pinehurst?
No, I won't. And the reason goes back to it's a dinner.
No, I understand all the reasons. It's a yes or no answer, and
No.
When I found out about this, I said, Jeff is going to object to this, and I don't disagree with your premise. I'm very much of two minds here. I don't think our costs should be covered. I think if we go, we should pay our own share for the reasons you outlined. We don't have expense accounts here. If we go on village business somewhere, I mean, I drove up to 2 hours up and 2 hours back. I'm not billing the village for mileage or anything like that.
Well,
make
that's the question, is getting together with representatives from Dornoch considered village business? Are we conducting village business because of this event, at this event?
From my standpoint only, let me say, let's assume we are for the moment. I can make the case, I'm not sure I've convinced myself, I can make the case for picking up the share for the guests. I agree with Jeff that we should not get our costs covered by that, whether it's an ethical violation or not. There's a little bit beside the point to me.
Is there a comparable or something semi-comparable to this that we've done in the past to support a group or something from the outside?
I have limited history here.
We need Jeff Batten back.
Yeah, we do need Jeff Batten. I do know that there was a sister city arrangement with a community in China. I don't know much about the details, but I do know that there was a dinner a dozen years ago because I kind of dug into it a little bit. The cost was more like $2,000, and it was split between the village and another entity.
Other thoughts? We could certainly carve out.
I'm coming back to, is it village business? I mean, that's what I'm asking myself. Are we conducting village business? Are we furthering the village whatever by meeting with Dornoch and promoting our historical relationship and or tourism, or, you know, is it a legitimate business interest?
I would personally think that that's irrelevant, because the idea there that we can conduct village business, this is a pretty big room. We can house them all in here. We have another assembly room over there that we can do it. We don't need to take them to dinner to do that. Okay, so the issue with me is not doing the business. The issue with me is sponsoring a dinner, a VIP dinner, out of taxpayer dollars.
Well,
That's
if,
my
if we
issue.
had it in the council room or in the conference room and we brought in food from some other vendor, would that be similar?
There's a big difference, in my opinion, when you bring in a sub sandwich and some chips, which has been the standard before, versus having a VIP dinner. There's a big difference. And I would argue, go back to at least the medical industry, when we're looked at sitting down with a representative who's selling some products. If we take anything more than a sub sandwich or chips, then there's a lot more scrutiny of what's going on there, okay? And so that, I'm not going to apply all the ethics issues from different professions that are on there. A VIP dinner with 40 people for $6,000 out of taxpayer dollars doesn't pass the sniff test any way you cut it, okay? Meeting with them for village business, got no problem. I'll show up here, I'll show up wherever you want. We're not paying $6,000 from my opinion. I certainly will not vote for that, for a VIP dinner.
If we were to cover our own expenses, it would, and limit the number of people who legitimately needed to be there, I don't think we're looking at $6,000. So, you know, it would be a smaller number. But let me ask this question. So, in terms of a reciprocal event, if they were to invite us over and they offered us a meal, you're suggesting we would not be able to take that meal, is that correct?
I would definitely look at the ethics on that as to what it is and what are the restrictions for it. I do recognize there are different restrictions for different offices that you hold. I will tell you that from my perspective, and having been in the military, there was a very limited amount of what you could accept and what you couldn't accept. And I will defer to those limits as to whatever they are. But I've also just given you an example that occurred on Friday for a 4-star general with lots and lots of people that were very upper level diplomats and things like that coming over, and the restrictions that we had to operate under, or he had to operate, in which then the class, just our classmates, college classmates, ponied up the money to cover that.
If we're unable to accept a meal at the other end, it is probably not a good idea for us to offer one here.
And I don't know what the rules are. I'm saying these be looked into. Okay, I'm just telling you, a VIP dinner, after all the different things we've argued about on spending money and not spending money, I don't see how anybody on this council, with the arguments we had, can say that would pass a sniff test. Okay, it just looks bad.
I think the list of potential attendees from Scotland is like 6. And let's assume that they all bring spouses, and so that's 12. 12 out of 40 is 30%. If it were $1,800, and obviously all of us had to pay our own share, anyone who attended paid their own share, is it the principal or is it the amount, or is it both?
Well, we know it's okay if it's Jersey Mike's. We just heard that. So, I mean, it's not a principle, it's an amount. Because
What if I didn't call it a VIP dinner, but I called it a working conference to iron out tourist arrangements?
You can call it what you want. If it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, and it flies like a duck, it's a duck.
A lot of it is definition, right?
Yeah, and so this is quacking like a duck. Call it whatever you want.
What if we step back? I can definitely look into ethical issues and, see where the line is
It's
on
worth
that.
talking about again. I think he brings
But
it
I can
up.
reach out to the Donald Ross Society or other organizations that might be willing to
Give the Tufts
subsidize or
Foundation.
underwrite this. Yeah.
and then we as council members would just pay on our own.
Because the Give and Tufts Foundation is very interested in enhancing the archives and its breadth and scope and so forth, and this may have something to do with that.
All right, well, Doug, why don't you do some due diligence about this, and then we'll reconsider it at the next meeting.
Plus, I think that there are other municipalities all over the place that have sister cities in Europe or wherever that do reciprocal arrangements, and maybe seeing how they handle that kind of thing might help.
Yeah, we could do a little research on that.
obviously there is a historical hook between.
This would be a
Donald-
good question for Dan.
Between
I was
Donald-
thinking the exact same thing. He's probably watching right now.
There's a historical hook between the gentleman who we have a statue of in the middle of our village and this town over in Scotland where hence he came. So my recommendation is that we task Doug with doing a little more due diligence, and then we take it up at another meeting. Is everyone all right with that? Okay. There we are. Okay. Other business?
Yeah, I had one thing that I forgot to mention in my report off the offset. I did attend the SMPO Technical Coordinating Committee meeting last Wednesday, and as you may have read in the pilot, they are finalizing the list of projects that the SMPO is going to recommend the DOT score. And the SMPO will be able to prioritize this point system where they can allocate points to based on their priorities. That will be coming before the full board, I believe, a week from tomorrow, the 20th, for Pat. It was interesting, and this will come back up in our work session. The number of roundabouts that they are proposing be incorporated in various, I will call them intersections at the moment, vis-a-vis the traffic circle, we'll say, but I want to at least get on the record that I was there, and this is coming. And the other thing is that Doug and I think Alex and Scott Walston sat down to begin our TAZ, and we are going to meet next Wednesday, because I'm interested in how they did all of that.
Yeah, Doug, is there a due date for the TAZ?
They're trying to approve those like in September, so they'll hopefully go before the governing board and the TCC then.
Oh, so they'll go first to the
TCC.
and then they'll come to the governing board. So will the SMPO be looking at all 11 municipalities or just the ones in the?
No, the SMPO will just look at the SMPO.
Yes,
Okay.
just the SMPO district.
Okay.
But when the DOT, when they feed this into the county transportation demand model, they will then be taking the results from those municipalities, not from the county commissioners, not in the SMPO.
All right. Any other business that people want to raise before we go to? We'll take a short break. So
Move to adjourn the regular meeting.
okay, and we'll return. We'll turn in about. Why don't we take 10 minutes, which will give us a chance to run down to Jersey Mike's and get a snack. Okay. Thank you.